Recorder, it is recording.
Okay, go ahead.
Meeting of the, and a public hearing being held at the Town Commission of the Town of Gulfstream on Friday, August 12th, 2022, at 9 a.m. in the William F. Coe Jr. Commission Chambers of the Town Hall, 100 Sea Road, Gulfstream, Florida.
All right, can everyone stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Rita, can you call the roll, please?
Certainly. Commissioner Orthwein. Here. Commissioner Smith,
Here.
Vice Mayor Stanley,
Here.
and let the record show that Mr. Nazaro, our in-house attorney, is present, as is the town manager, Gregory Dunham, police chief Ed Allen, and myself.
We
Let the record show that absent is Mayor Morgan and Commissioner Lyons.
we need to approve the minutes from the last regular meeting held on July 8th, 2022. Any comments, changes, or additions before we approve?
I move they be approved as stated.
I'll second.
Rita, can you call the roll, please?
Commissioner Orthwein. Here. Commissioner Smith.
Here, yes.
Vice Mayor Stanley.
Yes. We have any changes or additions, withdrawals to the agenda that was published?
Yes, Mr. Vice Mayor, if I could. If you turn to the reports, the town manager reports, you see number 6 is budget discussion.
Yes.
And then also down on at 10A is construction management inspection services for Blue Water Cove. I'd like, if I can, is to move A to be number 7 under the town manager reports, because our engineer is here and she can help discuss both of those. She'll
Okay.
be part of both of those, number 6 and number 7.
Got it.
Mr. Vice Mayor, also wanted to add under town manager reports, after the interlocal agreement, number 5, compact parking space discussion.
So we'll have 8 items under there.
Okay. You'll see our published schedule for meetings for September, October, November, and December. Anybody from the public like to speak for public comment? Going once, going twice, public comments closed. We're moving on to the public hearings. Anyone that's going to speak on any of the applications, I believe there's 3. Can you please stand up and be sworn in?
Please raise your right hand. You swear to tell the truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God.
First application is 590 Right Way. Who's going to make the presentation on behalf of the applicant?
Good morning, Patrick
Morning.
O'Connell, architect. I'm here representing Steve and Jenny Strite at 590 Right Way. Here we go. All right, well, we're here to for a slight revision to the previously approved renovations for 590 Right Way. I'm not sure how familiar you are with the project.
Yeah, it came before us once before about 90 days ago, and I guess there's a modification to the enclosed area with special
Exactly.
exception in the back.
Yes, sir, exactly. So we had used a portion of that special exception for the covered entry. And, originally when we were looking at the project, the loggia was an item of discussion on whether we were going to change that or leave it as existing. And at the time, it made sense to, at the time, to sort of leave it after we got some budget information and analysis on what it would cost to sort of renovate that and improve the property even more than we already are. It seemed to make sense. So there's a little bit of room left in the special exception for the covered area. So essentially what we're doing is we're taking the existing loggia that's there, and we're demolishing that, and we're reusing that same covered square footage and recentering it on the living room. And as we go through, we can go to the next slide. This is the proposed site plan. So as you can see in this option, or what we're proposing, the loggia is centered on that living room. Next slide. Next
That's
slide.
existing.
Yes, that's existing, exactly.
So you're moving it south, you're kind of sliding the whole space south and enlarging it.
Exactly. Yes, we enlarged it slightly, and it's centered now on that rear bay. If we go to as you can see in the front elevation, there's a small portion on the top. That's the existing loggia, where you can sort of see the loggia peeking out. Now it's completely hidden behind the main mass of the house from the street. So we can go to the next slide. And here you can see the rear elevation and how, it's much cleaner. It relates much better to the proposed floor plan in terms of the living room sliders opening out to the loggia. It really cleans up the rear elevation and makes it seem less large actually, which is nice. Yep, next slide. Those don't change very much from the sides. It's really just the rear and the front that changes a lot. So that pretty much concludes the presentation. It's really just that one change at the loggia and recentering it and cleaning it up. And thank you for your time.
Thank you. Are you asking for 300 feet in addition to the previously approved exception for additional space? Or is this all within the 300 square feet? Wasn't there square footage added on the front entry feature originally?
There was 24 square feet.
That 24 feet is all?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
So we have had some discussion with the ARPB and with staff and the commission about this particular special exception. So it does only permit an additional 300 square feet over the maximum permitted FAR. This project, or I guess when this structure was originally built, there was a special exception to exceed the maximum permitted FAR by a small amount under 300. And then the application, as Mr. Dunham mentioned, from the current owners, increased that slightly with the front entry. And now they're adjusting that all within the maximum permitted 300 square feet, and they are maximizing that special exception. If you don't mind, just for the record, for each 1 square foot of roof protection over the maximum permitted, 2 square feet of roof protection must be provided that are within the maximum permissible FAR and shall remain forever unenclosed. So you're asking for 300 square feet. So right now the project has a total of 900 square feet that are open and unenclosed. Because I know the rear is 500, so you have that. It's just, so to get the 300 square feet, you would have to have 600 square feet also uncovered. So
Correct.
if you could just mention that point that out on the project for us, please.
Yes, sure. You could go to the site plan or the site data table. Yeah. Can you zoom in on the table?
We can see it.
We can see it.
Yeah,
See
we've
the
got
numbers there?
we've got it on our sheet too.
There you go.
There you go. Good
Thank
job.
you. Correct, yeah, so the existing is 664. We're taking out 386, adding, so we're at a net 777 for the covered
covered porches.
Is that enough?
No, it's not.
Okay,
Does it meet it?
I don't believe it does. It's required to be 2 to 1, right?
Right,
Needs to be
so
900?
that's
Correct.
correct.
So is the size of the letters just supposed to be reduced?
It can be that size, but it needs to also incorporate other areas that are within the maximum permitted FAR. They're also unenclosed. So you have to kind of give up some to get the special exception.
So the special exception, we're still within that 300 square feet in terms of what we're over.
That's correct. So one of the criteria, we've tried to be, hone in on this because this is a very popular special exception, as you can imagine. You can be 300 square feet over, but for every 1 square foot over, you have to have 2 square feet within your FAR. They're also open and unenclosed. So there's an adjustment in the design to allow that extra 300.
Okay.
And I just want to apologize to the applicant. I know we discussed this a little bit at the ARPB meeting, but apparently, this kind of fell through the cracks.
So what's the adjustment on it's on the existing porch? Go back up to so it's got to be 900 at the end of the table, right?
The total cover needs to be over 900 in order to get the.
Right, to
Right.
get the maximum of 300.
So you got 120.
What is it?
I got you.
770.
Well, this is a lot to digest right now
Yeah, I see.
at this moment in time.
So essentially, we need to make interior space be covered exterior space.
So that's correct. You would either need to reduce it by however many square feet, because for each 1 square feet that you give up under the maximum permitted, you don't have to, so for example, if you wanted to exceed it by only 200 square feet, you'd have 200 plus 400 for 600 total. So that's the adjustment that would need to be made, or again, you could adjust some of the,
Well, then we're not that far off.
No, you're not that far.
So
No.
You're
I
at
mean,
777 and you
Right.
probably have half of that in reduction to do it.
yeah, so we could maybe shrink the loggia in a couple directions and try and get the numbers to work. Yeah, I guess that's our strategy there. Because I think we're not that far off.
Square footage of the loggia?
I think it's 500.
I mean, the dimension.
Yeah, about 500 square feet.
So where would you bring it in from the south side? So it's still, I still want to flush on the north side.
And yeah, we definitely want to keep it centered on that living room. So we could come in on both sides a little bit.
I don't think the math is that complicated. I think when you're not in front of us, you could probably knock off. probably
Why don't we,
100 feet and would-
Yeah, I think so.
Why don't we try to, why don't we table this, do some math and bring it back in about 20 minutes? Can we do that?
So it looks like if they currently have 777, and there are plenty of people in the room that can certainly check my math, it's a difference of 123 feet. If you divide that by 3, that's 41. So that's about approximately the number that you would need to reduce. So from exceeding it from 300.
Because you've got coverage.
You need to
space.
exceed it by, 259. because that would give you 777 for the total that would be required to be open.
So you're saying
Nine
instead of
plus
300,
you've already got
259 over the maximum permitted.
Okay, so the math was how many square feet would we need to reduce the loggia then?
41.
41 square
Any
feet.
area that's covered.
Okay. Yeah, I think we could do that. We could do that easily. Is there dimension on the plan for the loggia?
Yeah, I'm not
Can
seeing.
you go to the floor plan?
It's hard to read.
Mhm.
Yeah. No, there's no dimensions on it.
if you need to go like lot.
Yeah, I mean, we,
Yeah, let's,
what about a conditional approval of some kind
yeah,
or
we'll
something?
do that. Let's do the other two applications. Apologize for the wait. Why don't y'all go back? Trey, do we need you for the next one? Sort of.
I mean,
I mean, I think that one's a little more straightforward.
All right. Yeah, if y'all can just, I don't want to violate the sunshine law. We're up here, but y'all could work with staff on your calculation and then we can do a conditional approval. That way we have it right in about 20 minutes.
Okay,
And then you don't have to come back.
wonderful. Awesome. I appreciate that.
Thanks. All right, we're going to continue this application and it's going to be moved to the end of the rest of the applications for development approval. So we're going to move on to the next application. It's going to be Indigo Point, lot 72, Place Soleil.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Jay Colstock. I represent Mr. Dorfsheimer at 945 Indigo Point. And we are presenting on the screen, requesting for a new house to be built on that property. There's an existing house there now that's going to be torn down, and this one's going to take its place. First of all, I'd like to thank the staff for all their help. You guys met with us every time we requested it, and you guys were great. We are also asking for 289 square feet of that exemption, but we have more than twice as much of leftover patio to cover up for that rule that just was brought up. And Mr. Dorfsheimer is willing to sign the paper that says that patio will never be enclosed. So has everybody seen a packet of this house? Have you all had a minute to review it?
Yeah.
We have.
Pretty much familiar with it? Okay, so we can thumb through the drawings, but if you're
Yeah, if
already
you can
familiar.
just, thumb through it,
Okay.
just so everything's on the record with. the
That's the
presentation.
existing survey with the old house on it. That's the neighborhood. If you're familiar with the neighborhood, the little red boxed area, that's his property. The rest of them are all the rest of the streets on that. There's little arrows that point to where they are with photos of all the houses on the neighborhood. This is site plan. The house is obviously turned a little bit to try to look down the intercoastal. First floor. Second floor. That's our area calcs. And you can see that area on the top left. That's our area of 289 square feet. Next. That's the front elevation with the windows calculations and the eave calculations and the maximum height calculations. And then on the bottom are the side, the left side elevation. Okay, with also the window calculations. One more. Oh. One more. No, there you go. So that's the rear of the house with its window calculations. We're at 40%, and the right side elevation with all of its window calculations. Go ahead. And then we're getting into existing landscaping, and I'll turn it over to the landscape architect.
Yes, so before you go into the
Yeah,
landscaping,
yeah.
can you just talk a little bit? I'd like I said, this house looks like it's in pretty good scale with the square footage in relation to the lot being about 15,000 square feet. Can you just go over your calculation of what's under area
We're,
covered?
yeah, okay.
Yeah, which I know we have it just for the record.
Right, so the first floor, the main area with the just a regular easy hatch, that's the main part of the house. You can see the front entryways highlighted and the garage are highlighted. Those are separate. And then if you go up to the top, you can see the patio. The second, just go ahead and zoom out. And the second floor area, that one little box is the elevator, and the lowest part that's pointed to, that's the stair. Because those have to be counted twice if they're over 14 feet, and those are being counted. So the FAR is, we're a little bit low. I think we're 20 some underneath the maximum.
And then on the, I'm kind of just pivoting before you get to the landscaping to the front elevation, which obviously you've got some nice renderings for us to look at other than just the site plans. So just talk a little bit about, we've had a couple of applications, which this one looks like it addresses appropriately. One would be the entry feature. And then two, what you're using to break up the first and second story window on the front facade just to the left of the entry feature.
Sure. Well, you're right about the front entry, because I did have to bring it down a little bit to bring it under 14 feet.
Right.
So
it
that
does
was,
meet the code.
Okay.
yeah, that was one thing that we addressed. The little shed roof that's between that's the stair tower that's in the center there. The lower windows and the upper windows are bisected by a little shed roof that has a little, you can see the detail of it on the top left. That's the little bracketry that holds it. It's just a little metal roof that matches the front entryway.
I would also ask if you would just point out that, I mean, the commission can see it, but the three different facades that you have, if you just point out just for the record.
Yeah, what is the surface around the stairwell tower?
Oh, the stone.
Is it stone or?
It's like a porcelain, but it's like a gray porcelain stone, and we had samples of that.
Okay, the ARPD.
I think it's it doesn't have a real thick grout line, but we do want it to have some texture to it. We don't want it to be just a smooth surface.
And
It's
these,
smooth, the stonework is smooth,
It has a little bit of little texture to it.
okay.
and the color rendering, the
Yeah.
stones are larger than the stones that are,
Yeah.
I'm pointing that
limited,
out.
but, yeah.
Yeah, just for the record.
Okay.
So,
But they're a slightly gray,
Yeah,
off-white.
correct. And I think the roof tile is also a light gray. Yeah, it's a light.
And these stones are bigger than they're shown here.
yeah, if you look at the color.
Can you go?
No,
Oh, that's
this-
fine.
They're bigger on yeah,
Yeah, they're bigger than.
than on the architectural.
Oh, okay, got it. Oh, thank you. It's
Okay.
this one.
Sorry.
I thought you were saying they were bigger than here.
But how are those applied? They're just,
Well, I don't think they're big enough that we need clips, so I think they're just going to be mudded on.
okay. So if you've got, I don't think you're painting the stone. So if this house.
No.
It's out, well, my point is if this house is ever in for a color change, you're not going to paint over the stone. So most likely this palette
Yeah.
with the stone is going to be locked in for a significant period of time. Like you're not going to come in with a Bermudian pink and leaving the stone that color. You're going to have a big.
And since the stone matches the roof, we're kind of married to
Yeah,
it.
exactly. I'm just pointing that out, sure. And then as far as you're breaking up your entry features, so that's 10 on the roof there
Correct.
on the front entry feature and then
Right.
on,
Those are the only two areas for that.
Greg, do we have any comments on the
Yeah.
10?
Yeah, it's not a permitted roof. I
That's
don't
a
believe.
standing seam metal roof.
Standing seam.
Yeah.
We've got it two places on the.
Going to be
Copper.
It's
Copper.
Code.
Yeah.
Copper.
But
Yeah,
that's,
that's okay. We
It's
can-
okay.
Yeah.
I mean, it's allowed if it's copper.
Yeah, I got
Yeah,
it.
so if that's a copper standing seam, you're correct. It's at the front entryway and only at that
It's also on the little the architectural feature in the stair stack.
Yeah, those
Right.
period, the entryway and that.
Any place
that
on the
shed
back?
here, nowhere in the back or the sides.
So that's going to be copper.
Mhm.
And the roof isn't going to be this white. What did you describe the white as again?
It's a-
Old white, gold grain painting, it was primarily white, the house across the street is the exact same. color.
Interesting.
You want to flip to the back here?
But the copper color will be more of a brownish when it tarnishes, correct? This looks like a gray.
When it's new.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a
It's supposed to
technicality.
turn. Sometimes it doesn't turn, but it's supposed to turn patina.
You can make it not turn.
That's right. Okay, any comments on the rear facade? Obviously, we've talked about the, the reduction in the size of the windows and whatnot to code.
Yeah, I'm at the 40%.
So the only two things I'll point out is with the modern looking glass for the view up on top of in lieu of the railings. I mean, where are we on that? I mean, we approved that in recent memory.
You're talking about in the back?
Yes.
The balcony.
The rear
The one
elevation.
that kind of
Think
looks
about
like
it.
it's clear.
A 3 foot.
Yeah.
What is
He's
that?
got a
Like-
great view. I really don't want to block that view with any kind of railing. I can avoid it. He looks right down the intercoastal.
Is that like a
Is it
Glass.
like- It's like sea
Is
glass?
Yeah, no, it's,
plexiglass?
no, it's a,
Real
It's
glass.
real?
it's a tempered,
glass?
oh, sure.
Yeah,
Okay.
Glass, yeah.
sort of what you're using in the
Yeah,
more of a modern setup.
Height to code.
is,
Uh,
tell me about that.
I don't believe that's prohibited in the code, to my
Uh,
knowledge.
I've never seen it in our,
Yes.
in plans coming through.
I think there's actually another plan, if I'm not mistaken. Renee, Rebecca, Rita, don't we have another plan with this glass type railing? I know we do. I'm not sure if it's been before the town commission yet.
I don't know of one that's pending.
Yeah. But I don't believe it's prohibited in the code. I'd have to have.
And then the second
my
thing
guy
is
look it up real quick.
I don't think it's ever,
No,
I
go
don't think
ahead.
it's in the code, but
Trace
Go
coming
ahead.
back here too. And my second comment is the staircase is permitted,
Yeah.
but and I realize that, the applicant's always like, well, this is the rear of the house facing the thing. Why are you so worried about it? But we look at all the sides. The stairwell to me, and I don't think this is a big issue, but it needs something to, kind of,
If you like it softened, can we buffer it, just landscaping?
yeah,
'Cause
that's
You really
fine,
don't see
but-
it from anywhere.
Yeah, but the railing to me looks like, I mean, I realize there's really no right or wrong, Bermuda style staircase. Obviously, it's more right angles typically. But what type of spec is that railing? I
On the-
know it's
on the
difficult
spiral,
because
it's
it's
just to pick
curving.
it- Just to pick it on the spiral.
Yeah.
You can't really do glass like that. or else
No,
you
no,
have
no,
to
I'm
have
not
glass
asking for
curve.
glass.
And again, that only faces,
Yeah.
because that's on the side, that's only seen from the neighbor on that one side and the guy across the street or across the canal who has full bushes.
Silent about it. It's not prohibited.
Mhm. What are the comments from the ARPB on
On the glass.
Yeah.
I don't think they had any comments about the railing you're speaking of.
we're talking about the glass too.
Yeah.
They didn't have any
I
comment.
don't recall any comments. during that.
And it's not in our code.
It's not prohibited. It's
It's-
not, it doesn't.
not even
it
mentioned.
doesn't address it.
Yeah, right. I don't think we've ever had one. To my knowledge.
I don't remember seeing anything
Maybe
prohibiting
like
like
the
that.
spiral staircase.
It makes it look modern, but
Is there any way to upgrade the railing, even though I know you're kind of confined because it's curved and not right angles on the
On
spiral
the
staircase?
spiral,
Yeah,
don't know how many options there are on those.
because I know it's difficult with the run.
I don't know what the options are. I think they're pretty much married to those, to a picket like that. Again, like I said, if we landscape around that, we can make it so that that's pretty much privatized.
Yeah, and I realize, maybe you're walking down, you want to see a view of the water, so you don't want to totally buffer it. Yeah. And then as far as the mullions or muttons on the windows, those are all proved to be white.
Correct.
Shutters are gonna be black, as you've shown here, or dark gray.
For the mullion?
No, the shutters, and the
Oh.
door, and the garage doors, they're gonna all be the same color. No, yes.
was there any comment about the garage doors being black? Are they black?
It's a darker gray. It's
Right.
not.
Okay.
It's in the same palette. Trey, we're struggling a little bit with the
The
all
spiral.
glass, not railing, but all glass area up top in lieu of a standard railing, Chippendale, that sort of thing.
Well, Chippendale would
Traditional.
totally block our view. We'd prefer
Yeah,
not to
I
do
know, I
that
know.
at all.
Not prohibited, we can.
It gives it more of a contemporary look, I think, as opposed to a traditional Bermuda house. I don't know how much a railing will block your view. Just saying. I mean,
What
I
is that?
have a
That's-
two-story house and I have a traditional
A
Chippendale, and it doesn't block my view.
Simple picket rail.
It's beautiful.
From an angle that can, if you're looking straight through it, no. But if you're looking at it down at an angle, it'll definitely block your view. I remember when we were doing balustrades, maybe you couldn't see through those hardly at all. And a Chippendale rail like he's talking, suggesting, that would end up being so many slats, you'd never be able to see through that unless you were looking straight through it.
How
Well, you
tall
may
is
be
it?
But it's, I mean, are you gonna be sitting down trying to look through? I mean, if you're standing up,
Yeah.
then you don't see, there's no railing to look through.
It'd be sitting.
If the code doesn't address the glass
Mhm.
railing, you can certainly bring up the architectural style and discussing the railing.
Okay, it's like more of a modern look as opposed to a traditional
Correct.
railing.
Correct.
I think that's what we're struggling with in
Yeah,
general.
if the glass were even framed
It
and
allows you to
cast.
see the house uninterrupted.
I'm sorry, what did you say?
Go to one of the other views. It allows you to see right through it to see the house also.
I mean, it does. You've got raptor tails up there and all that. Yeah.
What's the feature between the glass panels? Is it just an aluminum fixture that holds them,
Just
or
a
is it
seam.
glass to glass?
Just a
Just the
seam.
seam is all, and there's no cap on it either, it's just glass
Well,
panels.
there might be some sort of a grip on it on top
Mhm.
rather than just a blunt glass stop.
Make it a little better by framing it, but
I've seen them framed before instead of just,
open glass.
yeah, open glass. They frame the glass out a little bit and it just gives it a more traditional look as opposed to all glass. That's all. It's just a style.
Yeah, it would look more like windows or window frames than it would be just pure glass.
Glass.
I
Okay.
actually don't think it matches the house.
So may I suggest
Yes.
the stone piers, the actual columns, if we brought those up to be railing height, can you find that? Show that. If you brought those up to be railing height, the glass would be framed in between those piers. I have a
Do you have
drawing
a
I can show you. So you can see.
You mean just 4 of them, the big?
No, well, all of them. Every one of those piers would extend up.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah, zoom in on that.
yeah, I
one.
see what you're talking about now.
And that gives you your framing that you want, a little bit of structure, but it still offers the glass for us. It's more in style and with the style of the house.
That's definitely a lot
That's
better.
better.
We wouldn't mind something like that if that would be a good compromise.
There's still a lot of glass runs there. They're pretty big.
I think if you could just, not bring that up, but put more of a traditional railing on it, look better, but it's only my opinion. I mean, that's better. But it, I don't know.
Do you agree that's a little bit better to the style?
Eh,
It's a better compromise, as to what you're framing.
When you stand there and you see your view, you really don't want anything in front of you.
And there's no cap for the glass that'll stay without cracking it, or that's.
Oh, you could put a
like
cap
flat.
on it. Oh, sure. They put aluminum caps on.
Not on the glass, but
Yeah, on top of the glass. You don't, because that glass is 3/4 of an inch.
right.
You don't want to lean up against that. It'd be sharp. So they put like a softening.
So
It's also a
you
grip.
have 4 columns that came up, right? 1, 2.
Well, no, there's
3
3 on the big part of the patio. There's one over on the side, and there's one that's actually not shown that's in the joint. And then
Right.
one on the backside that you haven't seen, that you don't see. But it does frame the glass. It makes the glass in sections at that point.
Mhm.
Well, they at least divide it up.
Yeah, well,
It breaks it up some.
I'm leaning towards that
With a
I mean, if we're
cap.
Going with it with a cap, which I know the app.
And we don't mean a foot cap that blocks view, but
No.
some
No,
sort
no.
of feature that frames it a little more.
I don't want
All
that.
right, why don't we think about that and just go through the landscaping, and then we'll circle
Okay,
back to this as
thank
the
you.
last piece. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Joe Peterson. I'm the landscape architect for the project. The first sheet shows the existing trees to be removed. There are a number of old cabbage palms that are a little tired, and a couple of queen palms in the back. Date palms in the front that are varying heights, different heights. And there's an existing clusia hedge on the neighbor's property to the east, 8 feet high, and there's a 7-foot high ficus hedge on the left on the neighbor's property. There's a couple of multi-stemmed Adenidia palms in the back that we're keeping. Let me just go to the colored one. Down there. Next one. There. That just shows it a little bit better. We're going to flank the entry to the site with gumbo limbo trees and coconut palms. And the front of the house will be framed by, the entry will be framed by new date palms. There's 3 layers of landscaping at the base of the house with bougainvillea standards in front. On both sides, we're showing beauty leaf trees at 7 feet on center at 10 to 12 foot height for privacy. And in the back, there are coconut palms on each corner. Across the waterway, there are date palms, and in that back little green area, there are pigeon plum trees. And then there's various clusia hedges, clusia shrubs in the back for a little bit of privacy, and that's about it. Do you want to go to the elevation? Back up to that. Oh, there it is. Yeah, that just shows that I didn't color it, but that shows the existing clusia hedge to the right on the neighbor's property, and the gumbo limbo trees, and roughly what the front of the house will look like.
What's up on the, up towards the left, the corner to the left of the garage there as you drive up?
There are a couple of cabbage palms that we're going to save and coconut palms.
I think the sticking point is the.
Railing.
is the railing.
That's it. The landscape looks fine.
But we do have those pigeon plum trees back there, which
Yeah.
will certainly break it up, and we're installing them at 14 feet high. So there's 4 of them, and the date palms, of course, across the back. And on that one side, the calophyllum trees, that's going to form a continuous screen up to about 14 feet high. And so that will block most of it. And then there's an existing 5-stem Adenidia palm that's pretty large that's existing. We're going to save. And then another coconut palm. And that ficus hedge it's on the adjacent property, but it's 7 feet high. So.
Mr. Vice Mayor, could I kind of circle back to
Yes.
the architect?
Yes.
You did say that you met the code with respect to the open air.
I believe so, yeah.
Can you point out those areas on the?
You did.
He did.
Do it again.
Square footage one, yeah. That's the chart. The second one from the very, very bottom is the 289 exemption.
Okay.
And you can see the covered patio is the 600 and some
Okay.
square feet, so. And I thought that was a good point that he brought up about the trees that are in the back of the house, right before that balcony, explode at 14 feet. So they're gonna hide a lot of that railing anyway.
Okay, so we're circling back to the glass railing before we decide what we're gonna do on the application. Can you just put back up that alternative slide with when you raise the pillars, please? So if we put an aluminum, small aluminum cap on that, that's gonna be would you recommend that being a white cap, a gray cap, or just white to match the top?
Could just be the aluminum color to be the gray that would match.
Which would probably
Gray.
flow too, yeah.
Yeah, that's all, it's true also. There's a shoe that glass goes in. So you're gonna see a little bit of aluminum at the bottom.
Bottom also.
You've seen those.
But well, I don't see it here, but there would be a cap, if you would consider a cap.
Yeah, but it's
The
not
size of the
it's only
shoe or
like-
whatever.
You'd only see like 2 inches of it. It's just,
On the top and the
On
bottom.
the top and the bottom. is
well, the
what it
bottom is not
Yeah, it's pretty
it's
flat.
the
It's flat.
glass goes into a
is.
boot.
Okay. And the boots in the floor.
The boot sticks up from the
Oh,
floor
okay,
a few
all right.
inches, and that's the aluminum that you'll see at the bottom. That'll create the frame at the bottom and the frame at the top.
So how it needs the covered and enclosed.
Okay, well,
Would there be I'm sorry, Tom,
Go
would there be a column there's 1, 2, 3, 4 that you see from the front, but in the back it would be the leftmost column there. Yeah, is there a raised column that comes up in the corner back
Yes,
there?
it's not shown.
It's not shown here, but there would be one there.
Yes, correct.
Okay. Because there's a long.
Right where there's kind of a blue.
There's
thing.
Inside-
a
inside
long
corner,
run
yeah.
of glass there with nothing breaking it up.
Right. Now we'll frame that.
talking about right in the corner there where I'm looking at.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there's another one there. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
5 actually columns that would come up.
Yeah, but on the back side, there's another one. So you don't.
Six.
Probably a
On the right,
six.
on the right back
By
side.
the
there's one.
stairwell,
By
yeah.
the stairwell, okay. I think that would be an improvement.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's an improvement. It's kind of a compromise.
So you're not showing it there, but it would be back against the wall, or it would be just on the other side of the
It
circular
actually is
stair?
going to be
Yeah.
about 4 feet off that
Right.
wall. There's a
Gotcha.
column underneath it. That's the one that we're going to bring
Bring up.
up.
Okay. And that's the compromise right now,
It's a compromise, just,
although it's not prohibited under the code.
yeah.
I mean, we do heavily regulate the percentage of window on each elevation. So the question is, is this aesthetically similar enough for you to want to adjust it or include it in that figure?
Oh, the window
Because,
calculation,
it says.
because it looks like a window.
Right, it does. I mean, it doesn't say glass, it says window, but given the reflection is what the issue is.
Mhm.
I think that's the purpose of that provision in the code. So if you want to, kind of look at that and how that impacts the aesthetics and the architectural design.
That's interesting. Because it does make it look like more of a window.
I don't think you can consider that a window and make that fall under a window code.
Go ahead.
Well, I mean, the flip side of that is that you look through the glass and see the other windows. I don't know. It's, again, we've really never seen this.
We've
before.
never had anything like this. And you know what? It is a very modern look, which it takes away from the traditional house. The house is great. I think we're all struggling with it. Even if you pull those things up, it's a compromise, but we've never had a glass balcony, a total glass balcony. So that's why it's not prohibited or allowed. I mean,
Well,
either way.
we've had modern railings, the
Yeah.
wire going horizontal, which
Mhm.
we've
Yeah,
not allowed,
but
which is more of a modern look. We had those over on one of the two new houses on Oleander about 4 years
A
ago.
cable rail would read
Cable rail.
much more
Yeah, yes.
contemporary.
mhm. And we have glass, but it's more within the Chippendale look, kind of, I mean, more cross hatching in the middle.
Want to see it, or?
Well, the ARPB didn't say anything about this.
Not
I
to
didn't
my
see anything.
recollection.
Well, I've got a couple of options. We can bring it back next month with this, even though this is 90% of what the new rear facade's gonna look like. Sans the cap, which again, probably on this drawing is not gonna look much different than what we have now. Or bring it back with a view to, having a traditional railing on top with everything.
I have a rendering with the option of a railing, of a picket rail, if you want to see it.
We'd love to see it.
I think
Yeah.
that would probably be a good
Okay.
idea.
Can you find that one? It's the same thing. It just took the glass out and put the pickets in, that's all.
Yeah, I think it's hard to
No,
see
here we
that.
go.
There you go.
We thought that looked a little busy.
Do they have any more
There
options?
you go. So much worse, it calls your attention to it.
Prefer that one.
Well, you definitely need
Do
to,
you have another one?
What part of it is the issue? Is it the battens or?
Just the glass
Just
feature.
all glass.
Just all glass. It provides kind of a more modern, contemporary look to the house, and that's all. That's all that's wrong with it.
the concept being if you have I'll use the example of a new, condominium that has ocean views or something that are currently being constructed in South Florida. Typically, you're going to have all glass out on your balconies now on a more upscale project, which is modern, which is, it's the total opposite of, what we call a traditional Gulfstream Bermuda or Anglo Bermuda style. That's what we're grappling with here. Every house is different, I don't, the picket railing, sometimes you're looking at the picket railing saying if it's just straight picket railing with no interest, it's dating my house and it's brand new. So that's what you're coming with, and we're grappling with the other side of it. Because we've had probably, 10 applications recently where the first run through, they, these the Gulfstream Bermuda, Anglo Bermuda houses are pushing with more modern elements. It seems like every time they come through. So that's the issue.
As technology advances.
Yeah, well, again, we don't really have it, this is new construction. We don't really have, the old adaptive reuse with historic structures. I mean, we get all that, but none of that which we have in Gulfstream per se in our code. But so
Maybe the code should say that you only want picket.
well,
And, if it's
I
like
don't
the
disagree with you.
like the manager mentioned, if you feel like it's not consistent with architectural style, certainly within your discretion to defer it, or, if he has an alternative that you'd be satisfied with.
I can make one other. I'm very concerned about the timing.
Just for the record, this is Mr. Dorsheimer.
Could you,
He's the owner.
step up to the mic, please, sir?
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, and feel free to make your comment. We're listening.
I'm very concerned about the timing on this because of the demolition period coming to a close. And I mean, we've really worked hard on trying to put this together and stay within what we thought were the acceptable boundaries. And we're paying dearly for these views today. And to do different things that impedes that view after we paid tremendous amounts to get that view. And the other part of it is there's no houses that face this house on the other side that don't have a complete boundary of trees. I say trees. What are they?
Large shrubs.
Large shrubs on all three, across the canal, and then on the right side and on the left side. I appreciate your cooperation on this.
Well, the pickets aren't doing anything for me. The glass is
They're not
better.
doing anything.
I'm gonna say,
Yeah.
that's a given.
The rendering you provided us, although real life can look a little different.
Yeah.
It just, that's almost, again, it's sort of dating it. It's something you'd come in and renovate and change the style.
I like the columns extended up through.
Yeah.
And we thought if there was some thought about that would maintain the integrity of the property.
With a cap on top of it.
Yeah.
I think that'd be a compromise at the moment.
I'd be glad, I mean, I would love to get this through today because if we have to go through that 5-month delay and demo and stretch this out another year,
Well, I don't think it's going to delay the demo.
Well, this lot's got pilings, so.
The date is December 1.
Yeah.
I'm
Permitting?
Oh, permitting, I'm thinking that we're gonna have
that's,
taken care of by then.
Well,
talk about that later.
I mean, with
I
the
favor- I think the
compromise, I'm
columns
willing to
with the
let them go
glass and the
forward.
And the cap.
Yeah,
It's a
and the cap.
compromise for
I
us.
mean,
I
thank you.
think,
I'm
that's
just
my
gonna,
opinion.
Yeah, that's fine.
I'm just
But-
gonna forewarn any future applicants out there that this is gonna be, looked at and be subject to change, possibly subject to change in the code one way or the other with regard to this, if it's gonna. But I mean, the way this is setting up with the angles, some of these designs we get are just, it comes out and it goes like this. But now we've got a little bit of interest on the corners. We've got what, 1 corner, 2, 3. We have 5 corners, which is unique to the design. which does help out with this a little bit. It's not totally straight across. And then if we do I would like the staff to review a white versus natural gray versus whatever the natural cap color is on the top. I think that's important.
I
You
think
know,
a
maybe,
white cap might be
yeah,
better. I don't know.
I don't have a picture of it right now.
What would the bottom boot be? White?
It could be the same. It could be the same.
I could do white and
I,
white.
yeah, I think white and white, just because if it was a railing, it would be white. And so instead of gray, just natural gray, a white cap, it's gonna frame it out a little bit. Okay. I think that's the better thing to do. Is that, do you agree, Tom?
Sorry, the bottom shoe,
Mhm.
the bottom shoe is typically about 3 inches tall.
Mhm.
And it actually sits a little bit off of the deck material, so water
Water
can
can
go
come
through.
through.
So it sits up. So you're gonna see a shoe like similar to what that detail is showing at the bottom, but you can also mimic the top. The top cap will be about 1.5 inches. Typically, it's a handrail grip. So it's typically about 1.5 inches in framing. That's how they do those. But you're gonna see a bulky, little heavier piece at the bottom.
Does the shoe come in natural color, or can that be?
It comes
Powder
like a
coat.
mill aluminum, or it comes stainless steel, or we can have it painted enamel white. It could be a powder coated white.
So let's, so as part of this compromise, we should try to have the shoe match the top rail.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Okay,
Absolutely would match. I wouldn't want to
Okay.
mix them.
yeah.
The only other thing, we can plant out the staircase a little bit more.
Well, the staircase, we're looking at possibly one more
Tree or bush.
landscape feature to go in front of it.
Maybe, and can you? No, there's nothing in front of it.
Well, if we put something landscape wise, you want it along the property line, because I can extend those beauty leaf trees down to the coconut palm, as opposed to putting something up against it. For either one, that's what I recommend, because when you get those trees and you put them, they're very well suited
So
to
you've got-
putting them against each other with 6-7 feet, and then it's kind of like a solid
You've got
hedge, if you will, up high.
A little low hedge there that you just instead of that low hedge, couldn't you just completely block the view of the stairwell from
Well,
across the
they've
wall?
got they've got some tile. You know, there's a little bit of a deck there surrounding the
Yeah, but
unenclosed deck surrounding the staircase.
so we can just put a tall clusia hedge there, install it at 6 feet, and you want something higher?
Sure.
I think that'd help it.
Okay.
I mean, that's,
You're
it
talking
just
about all
gives
the way
it some
around.
relief.
There's a low hedge there now. Yeah, if you could kind of wrap it with either.
Yeah, we just give
higher
it-
hedges.
It
Sure.
wouldn't
Well, that's
be
an
right
easy
in
thing
your
to do, of
face.
course.
Not that,
But you are talking about this side over here that doesn't. have
right,
trees.
that's what I'm talking about.
And the
Right.
little hedge
Well,
in
you
front.
wrap it around the two sides,
Right.
the L shape, yeah.
Is that okay?
You know, obviously you don't have to go all the way. If you're going to walk out straight
Right.
out from the staircase all the way to the house, up to the corner there. You've got a little bit of a trellis there. You don't have to, yeah, if you took it, you don't have to go necessarily all the way to the trellis.
Okay.
Okay, well, let's take a look at our motions here.
You know, even if you're reading.
Me.
Excuse me.
The level.
We've
should
got
we
to add a couple of
Will we go over the
additional conditions to the last one here.
That will be on the level 3, right?
Mm-hmm.
It'll be with the, that's coming up, what do you call the columns coming up and a top?
So you've got 6 columns
Mhm.
being raised up to the top of the glass.
And the top being
The
white
rear elevation.
and bottom.
That's my, while you guys are working on that, Trey and I would like to speak once again about, circle back about that
chart, yeah.
your chart and the uncovered areas. So we're just doing the math here.
Because, so, and I just want to remind you that I specifically came up to you after the ARPB meeting and I said, I expect you to be able to show me and show the board where the uncovered area is as part of this project to get that special exception. And we were totally clear on it. So I know that you have it, I'm
You
sure.
wanted me to highlight the.
No, not
280
highlight,
square
just
feet.
make sure where it is. So,
Yeah.
so we have the covered patio is 690. I have boat storage, which is 44. Is that in open? Okay, so
No,
it's just,
that's
so
in-
that
that's
wouldn't,
inside.
that's inside, okay. The entry, that's also not, the garage is not unenclosed. And the stair, so I'm wondering, we have a
The
covered,
entry is open air.
the entry, okay, so we have.
That's the covered entry.
So we have 83 feet there. I'm just trying to get to, based on your special exception of 289 square feet, you need 867 open unenclosed. Because you need
How'd
two,
you get that?
because,
Wait.
so we have,
We need a sidebar again.
No.
for every,
Is this new?
this is what we've been talking about. So when you exceed the FAR, it has to be open and unenclosed, but you have to accommodate within the maximum permitted FAR 2 square feet for every 1 square foot that you exceed
Of overhang.
of open unenclosed area.
All right, do overhangs count?
I don't believe so. Rita, no.
It says open. Are you sure?
Yes.
If you read it, it says overhangs. If you look at my roof overhang or my roof plan, I show how many roof overhangs. How many square feet for the roof overhang?
And
Would that help?
is that counted in your square footage?
No, I didn't think I needed to, but if I
Well,
need
then
to.
if it's not included in the square footage and you can't include it as open and unenclosed area that's within your maximum permitted FAR.
So the covered entryway or the covered patio, covered entryway together have to be how much? 800 and something?
So
Are the figures?
if you have 289 that you're exceeding the maximum permitted, you need 867. And based on your 690 and 83, you still have,
So I'm at
90 feet,
773.
773 versus 867.
Well, we might have to do a sidebar too then. I thought we went through all this when we met.
We did.
So are we off?
Yeah, we have, 80 or 90 square
Say
feet. that-
90, 94 feet or
Yeah,
something thereabout.
So,
Well, so let's, we can't increase the 289 to 300. That wouldn't help. That would hurt.
correct.
I thought we went through all of these numbers with you guys.
Not us.
So what are we looking at on the reduction here?
Could be
30,
90
30,
something,
32,
30.
if they reduce what's exceeds the maximum permitted FAR by 32 feet, then they meet it with what they currently propose.
So we're over by 32, which is about what that one section of the patio extends over the balcony. Maybe I can just take that off and that would give us
You're
enough.
talking about this right here?
That,
the walkout from the VIP office.
no,
you
not
mean?
that.
No.
If you look at where the spiral stair is,
Yes.
there's a column and then right at the rear property line, there's like a little jog because our property line cuts through and I had to jog it. If I get rid of that little jog, that's probably 42 square feet.
Talking about for the overhang?
Well, it's part of the covered
What are
patio
you talking about?
balcony
Is
area.
where
It
the
would be-
staircase is.
Yeah, it would make the staircase move about 2 feet to the right.
Right.
And you see where the column is, how the column isn't directly on the corner? It's because the setback cut that off. But that little extension for the barbecue grill is around 1.5 feet, 2 feet. Maybe I can take that off and that would be around your 40 square feet.
Yeah, I see where you're looking.
You see
How
where I'm
many feet
talking?
will that give you though? Will that put it within what you're supposed to?
Well, I don't know
do?
how wide I'd have to calculate it. That's why I'm saying if we had, yeah, it'd be really close.
So that staircase would be up against the house, basically, correct?
Say it again?
This would move over. Am I looking at this wrong? This
No, I don't think
part?
the staircase wouldn't move.
The staircase. Okay, just this piece would move.
Yeah.
Got it.
So we could actually, if you're willing, we could do a contingent that moves 2 feet to the left.
Well, it still has to come within the right.
Well, that would comply with everything if we moved, if we just said, if you said in your approval that covered patio
I
was
know.
reduced 2 feet on the left side.
But is that enough? I mean, I don't know the dimension.
Yeah, because it's more than 15 feet out, so, if I take 2 feet out times the 15, that's 30, I'm almost at the 40, so I think that might be enough. We can calculate, that's what I'm saying, we can do a sidebar, we can calculate it, we can come back with the exact number that would be reduced.
So if you're going to look at approving the project, instead of including in the motion 289 square feet of open and enclosed, you just change that to 258. And then we would adjust that with the applicant prior to submission of a building permit.
I'm sorry.
I'd be acceptable with that. I don't know.
What is?
Right here on this motion, I've got it.
What's the number
So
drop?
this, it would be under the special exception,
It's 258 instead of 289.
And I can take that out of patio.
Just 31 feet.
am I getting this?
That way we could get approval today and avoid that moratorium.
That's subject to the adjustment of the overhang on those at the west facade. Whether we
Sorry?
call that, we call that an overhang or a covered porch. on
Well, the
west
code
facade.
calls it an overhang projection, but it's actually the covered patio.
All right.
So it'd be 258, right?
2 feet, I think that's what he said.
Well, it's subject to the reduction in size of the west covered patio overhang. You okay with that?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, I think we're ready. You ready?
The first motion is to approve a demolition permit.
I'll second that.
Rita, call the roll, please.
Commissioner Orthwyne?
Yes.
Commissioner Smith?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Stanley?
Yes.
And the second motion is motion to approve a land clearing permit to clear existing vegetation from the building site.
Second.
Rita?
Commissioner Orthwyne?
Yes.
Commissioner Smith?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Stanley?
Yes.
And the third motion is to approve a special exception to allow 258
Mhm.
square
Yes.
feet of covered unenclosed area that exceeds the maximum permitted floor area, and it should come from,
Yep, subject to the
Subject-
reduction
yeah,
in the
the,
west covered patio.
that's it.
West coverage, good.
Thank you very much.
Rita?
Commissioner Orthwyne?
Yes.
Commissioner Smith?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Stanley?
Yes.
Okay, and this motion is to approve a level 3 architecture site plan to permit the construction of a 5,255 square foot, two-story West Indies style single family dwelling with a 2-car garage, covered patio, deck and swim hall with the following conditions. Okay, the first is to move the columns up, right?
Well, you've got,
Wait,
here we go, right here.
okay, I have any minor modifications to approve landscaping shall be submitted to the town manager for review and approval, and any major modifications shall be brought back to the ARPB for review and approval prior to commencement of the landscaping. And then prior to the issuance of certificate of occupancy or certificate of completion, the owner of the property shall prepare and record a deed restriction which at minimum shall provide that all roof projection areas required to remain unenclosed as per approval of this special exception shall remain so far as long as the structure is in existence or exceeds the maximum permissible FAR. 3, that 6 of the columns being brought to the top of the glass
On the rear elevation.
on the rear elevation with a white cap top, with top white, and with the shoe holding the glass going to be white, and a 60-inch hedge around the
3/4 around
the staircase. And that's it.
How tall?
the hedge is Clusia.
The 60-inch. I said 60 feet. I meant
About
60
right,
inch.
just higher than 48.
That'd be interesting, 60 feet, wouldn't it?
Does that cover everything?
I think
so.
that covers everything.
That's correct.
That you've discussed today.
You have to get into the copper rating.
Oh, we didn't talk about that, but that's,
Well, is that,
He
that's
said it
a
is
spec in the
that.
plans, that's copper, not standing seam.
It shouldn't,
No,
no, it's, yeah, it's copper, but
it's
that's the only
described
kind of
as
material
copper
that's allowed.
already. It's not.
so that's not,
So if it's already.
it's in the plans. It has to be copper.
Then I'll second that.
Right. All right, we had discussion. Now we have a second. Ms. Rita, can you call the roll, please?
Commissioner Orthwine,
Yes.
Commissioner Smith,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Stanley.
Yes.
And now,
Right.
thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you for bearing with us this morning on that.
We're gonna bounce back to number one. or-
I think we need to circle back to the first.
We're gonna
This is a new
now
city,
circle back and bring back application number 1, 590 Right
I
Way.
think that's it.
We're gonna continue that application now.
It just reminds me, you know what? Circle back.
Hello, yes, thanks for giving us that time there. I think in discussing it with Mr. Nazaro, we were hoping that you may be able to give us a conditional approval on the design, and we will reduce the size of the loggia or the interior square footage, whatever it is we need to do to reduce the square footage to make it work.
So
And we'd
if
obviously
the,
have to.
if the commission is satisfied with the design and feels like it meets all of the special exception criteria, I would just ask that we make a motion to approve, subject to final
Sure.
review by staff prior to submission of
Do
a
we-
building permit.
Quickly, just have a sketch which is subject to final approval by staff or any kind of hash out or something of what the option is before we turn this loose.
Sure, so
Yeah, I think we can move the walls, the two side walls of the loggia in about 1 foot.
Uh-huh.
And I think that would resolve it.
North and south walls.
North
you
and
can
south walls.
Press it in. more.
Exactly. So that'll reduce it by, I think, the 40 square feet, or, potentially we talked about moving that interior wall in a little bit where the sliders are now. We could potentially move that wall in
Which interior wall?
where the sliders are,
the great big one.
between the loggia and the living room now,
Okay.
It's kind of the back.
in order to reduce the interior
Okay.
square footage.
I think those are two viable options. So we're just gonna add those as conditions,
Correct, yeah.
reduce it to being in compliance. So what is the exact,
Square foot.
Number.
what are our exact numbers now for the motion? They
So-
stay the same, but now the structure has to conform to the numbers or vice versa?
I would just say up to 300, and then we'll adjust it within that ceiling with
With the walls.
with that adjustment.
So would prove the special exception to allow 300 feet of uncovered?
It'd be
to 300.
up to
Up
300.
to.
So say up to.
And the other one, the
The special
existing,
exception says to prevent a new 500 square foot single story porch resulting in increased side and rear setbacks. Demolition permit is a 398. I just want this to conform to what we're doing.
yeah, that prior,
That may have to do with the fact that we're demoing the existing loggia and therefore
Yeah.
increasing the side setback. We're moving the
Yeah, I think the
loggia away from
ARPB
this.
got a little hung up on these motions before we had to redo the math too, as I recall. I think it was Mrs. Smith that. So demolition permit, we don't need to change. Special exception is to prevent a new 500 square foot single story porch resulting in increased side and rear setbacks.
That may change.
So
The
the
porch may have, the
demolition's
porch
gonna
may
stay
have
the
to get
same.
smaller, correct?
but the construction of a 500 square foot single story porch
Yeah,
is different, right?
Correct.
yeah. So that may shrink by what, 40 square feet? If you use that instead of the rear wall.
That's right.
So how would you?
I got it. So you either got a 400, you either have a 500 square foot porch with a reduction in the, with a reduction in other areas of the home to conform to the code, or you've got a 460 foot porch with no reduction in other areas of the home to conform to the code, and it's subject to final staff review. Let's go with that.
Okay, so you're going with the construction of
It's either 500,
500 or
60,
Plus or minus, yeah.
plus or
or the
minus.
reduction of other areas of the home. So
Correct.
it's one or the other.
Correct.
Okay. And,
We got 3 motions.
okay,
460 or a reduction in other areas of the home so it can remain 500 as proposed. And everything's subject to final staff review after
okay,
we.
that stays the same.
Yep.
Okay. Motion to approve special exception up to allow up
We
to
gotta do
3.
the demolition permit first.
That's in,
Wait,
that's
I
in
didn't-
number
okay.
2. That's in the second one.
Okay, here you have the first in the, yeah. We have to approve the demolition permit to remove existing 398 square feet of single-story porch.
Rita,
Oh, I second that, yeah.
second by Mr. Smith.
Commissioner Orwell,
Yes.
Commissioner Smith,
Yes,
Vice Mayor Stanley,
Yes.
And the second motion is to approve a special exception to allow up to 300 square feet of uncovered, unenclosed area that exceeds the maximum permitted floor area ratio.
I'll second that.
Rita, call the roll, please.
Commissioner Orwell,
Yes.
Commissioner Smith,
Yes,
Vice Mayor Stanley,
Yes.
The third motion is to approve a level 3 architecture site plan to permit the demolition of existing 300, and I'm reading it from here.
98, yeah. right.
98 square foot single-story porch and construction of a new 460 square foot or 500 with the reduction of other areas of the home,
Right.
correct?
Yep, subject to final approval by staff.
Yep, subject to final approval by staff.
Okay. Rita, call the roll, please.
Commissioner Orwell,
Yes.
Commissioner Smith,
Yes,
Vice Mayor Stanley.
Yes.
Thanks so much. I appreciate you working
All
through
right,
that.
thank you. Thanks for your patience today as well.
it's really beautifying.
Yeah.
See the pre and post, it's really a nice change.
It'll look nice. Bye.
Thank you. Okay, we're on to the
To-
next application would be 996 Pelican Lane.
Good morning, Vice Mayor, ladies and gentlemen of the commission.
Morning.
So Christopher Bernardo on behalf of Mr. and Mrs. Pahota, the owners of the property, and just to get us up to date on where we were before you on July 8th. And if we recall where we left off at that, we did defer until today. The primary issue, there were some design modifications that the town was looking for, but the primary issue, which I'd like to address for you today, are the variance requests. And there were 3 variance requests, which were very much associated, if Commission recalls, with the legality of a subsequent lot that was connected to the property, that is part of the property. If we can go ahead and go to, yes. So just to refresh the recollection of the commission, 996 Pelican Lane is a single lot of land, which, and if you look in the picture, this is property appraiser's overhead aerial. You have the secondary parcel, which is to the south and makes up the seawall and into the canal area there to the south. The Pahota zone, those were sold as a single parcel. As I had argued back in July, this was the course, the chain of title has conveyed these lots together since as far back as the 1950s. And the issue here is that what was discovered was that the second lot, which is called parcel 2 to the south, is outside of the town of Gulfstream. And at later inspection, that canalway to the south is a yacht basin owned by the city of Delray Beach. But making a legal long story short, this parcel here to the south is a lost parcel. It isn't part of the city of Delray Beach. It isn't part of the town of Gulfstream. It is actually part of the county of Palm Beach. Resulting measurements of that, and maybe if we go ahead to the next slide. I don't know if you're still in the slide, you're editing the slide. The next slide, yes, please. Next slide, I'm sorry. Zoom out a little bit. So again, this parcel, this is an aerial view of that lot. The seawall and the adjoining land has always been part of one parcel of land. Parcel 1 and Parcel 2 have always been used as 996 Pelican Lane. The seawall servicing Lot 1 exists along the southern boundary, and as you can see from the aerial, this is a single lot of land. So in all respects, these two parcels have always been used. The problem is that under the town code, legally, we cannot use that Parcel 2, the subsequent parcel below, as part of the land calculations. As a result, that causes 3 different problems for us for permitting. And the first problem is that the rear setback requirement is not met because we have to measure it from the exterior line. The floor area ratio is not met because of the loss of that 707 square feet, and the pool setback is not met. So originally we had gone in with 3 variance requests. At our July meeting, what was discussed was that had the town annexed this parcel of land, this sliver of land, these problems would go away. We wouldn't need the rear setback variance. We wouldn't need the floor area ratio variance. And the pool variance, which we'll address in a minute, it's our position that we won't need that either. These will all be met if this parcel, the second parcel of land, was considered the town of Gulfstream. So since our July meeting, we did do a lot of work with town council, reached out to the county, and did some research on annexation. And I'm very happy to report to the town that as our intuition told us that there would have to have been a more expedited proceeding. Annexation is usually a very cumbersome proceeding. Normal annexations require town referendum and a city referendum. Like Boca Raton had annexed the town center mall, they needed quite a large city vote. I'm happy to report that Florida statutes requires and actually allows an expedited proceeding and puts the authority all in this commission's seat. And in essence, to summarize the proceeding, the request would be made by the owner. And in the situation where there is a single owner of the parcel of land, which is in our situation here, that owner may petition rather than the town. The owner may petition the town for an annexation, showing the evidence that it's a single parcel. There are some prerequisites, all that are met here. Contiguous land, single owner, doesn't interfere with town utilities. There's a few others. None of them are problematic. And it would be in the purview of the town commission to approve that annexation. And that's what we're proposing today. I believe at our last July meeting, what was presented was that we deferred because of this annexation proceeding, that we wanted to verify that that was the case. And what was proposed, I believe, by Vice Mayor Stanley was that the consideration would be that this would be a conditional approval with the annexation as being a possibility. And I think at the time, we weren't completely certain that would work because of the normal annexation requiring citywide referendum. So if you make something conditioned on something you can't control, that's the problem. I'm very happy to report that bottom line is it would rest solely in this commission's purview and vote and approval to accept that annexation. So what we're proposing today, coming back from our July presentation, is that the town consider the approvals and the plans that are submitted with the application that will be filed for the annexation of what we are calling parcel 2.
So it would rest solely with us to annex it in, the commission?
So I
Because-
have,
Shouldn't that come before
uh,
this part?
right. So after the last meeting, I did
I
talk to council, and I discussed that it would probably be the commission's preference to annex first instead of granting variances. But he mentioned that his client, like all of our residents really, want to get this through. So we could do it a number of ways. The way the applicant desires is to request variances and then annex sort of after the fact. We can't really condition granting variances on annexation, but we could, we're trying to get materials from the applicant at this time for that annexation. I spoke to him last week about reaching out to our planner and that he would give him a detailed list of items that we needed, and I provided him with that list on Monday.
Right.
And we're just waiting for just a response to that, and then we could reasonably see that as early as next commission meeting for some sort of initial action.
And then these variances would go away once we annex this in.
I believe that one variance they would still be seeking, but the floor area ratio and the principal setback would not be needed if the parcels were joined.
Yeah, and I talked to staff about this, and we worked through it a little bit this week, and I think that the main condition here, since you've got a couple of different things going on, but it can continue with their plans and approvals, is that they shouldn't have any demolition or construction until the annexation is complete, but everything else can keep moving.
That would be the permitting process, but not the actual demolition.
Correct. So whomever the permitting authority is going to be by contract with us, they're not supposed to issue the demo permit and the building permit until the annexation is done and everything is cleaned up. Then you move forward, and then we'll just review the pool variance here quickly. And we had 2 more changes on the front facade that I think we needed to be brought back today.
So
And then
all
we
the
move on.
variances would go away except the pool? Is that what you're saying?
Arguably, they still need the pool.
If we can address that, the rear setback would go away. We would have the 30 feet required under the code. The floor area ratio would go away. We would have the required 33% under the code. The pool setback is a matter of interpretation. I would start by saying that if on an inspection of the other lots on Pelican, and we do have an aerial that we can provide, the neighboring lot immediately to the west, the 2 neighboring lots immediately to the west, both facilitate a 10-foot setback to the pool immediately to the west. And we're working on bringing that up right now.
You can see it a little bit in that picture there.
And just in response, I just say that it's a table. There's nothing to interpret. It is a number. It is water connected to the intercoastal waterway. It is uniformly applied throughout the entire town, that there is a 20-foot setback in the north-south district. And to the extent that other properties have smaller setbacks, we're really looking at this property and not the other properties that may have been approved with different zoning codes.
So I think the issue of interpretation was on the special exception. It's a 70-75, but the owner doesn't
intend to debate on the issue on that with the town. I think the main issue is that what we're looking at is the feasibility of construction on that canal. And again, the neighboring lots, if you have that aerial photo that you have.
That is the house next door with the two, that's 10 foot and the 15 foot setback.
Right. So if you're looking down the waterway, the next two lots both use the 10-foot. And with the size of the lot for the Pahotas, again, the total square footage of this is not a huge home. The home construction is approximately 2,900. This property has a long history of, and I know that I had first addressed this with Rita throughout the time here, that this lot had changed hands from several different developers. And I would mention it's very relevant to consider in the town's evaluation of this lot. It's a relatively small lot for the value of what it is, and several past developers of that lot to redevelop have run into the similar problem of what they can place in that lot. So what is proposed here is in conformity with the remainder of the canal lotways by Pelican. And we would propose that regardless of the interpretation, to require the 15-foot setback on the pool would render the lot rather unfeasible. You would not be able to put a pool. You'd actually have to push the home back. Again, this is a 2,900 square foot home. And I'm sure by doing the math, just by looking at the last two presentations before the commission, this is probably one of the smaller new construction homes that are going up in the town for the value of what's there. So what we'd ask the town commission to take into consideration is the project as a whole. And again, that was the first presentation we had last month. The consideration we were asking for was to take the lot in a whole, and I'm very thankful for the work that we did with the town to come up with a solution. And I don't think, I'm very happy to say that we have a solution here. The prerequisites of filing the annexation, voluntary annexation proceeding is already in place. They're, simply a survey of the land, a request by the homeowner, in the purview of the town to approve it. There's a publication requirement that kind of pushes this out for a little time. But the bottom line is that we're very happy that we have a solution that solves the majority of the problems on the project. We would ask that the pool be taken special consideration in light of the project as a whole, and in light of the street as a whole. Again, given the size of this lot, the special circumstances that exist, which I'm happy to go back through, which do exist for this lot, to grant that variance for the pool setback.
Is it possible to put the pool in without the variance? Reconfigure it? Just because, it's been, I don't know if it meets all the requirements for a variance, if you can do something else here.
We don't have, we had it in our last package though, more of an architectural rendering of the actual pool. It's just shown here visually.
We do. This is the.
It needs to be 20 feet, Trey, from the back rear, from what may be the new rear property line on the south side.
If you go to slide.
I mean, I'm agreeing with Joan, is it seems to me you still could build that pool into the architectural plan and meet the code without getting the variance.
Here's a snapshot. Maybe go a little closer on that. You did.
No.
Here's a snapshot of the rear plans, and that would show, again, this is from my presentation asking for the original variance. And you can see this gives you the lot dimensions that would exist, assuming you are annexing the lot. And under here, you can see the original line would be that required pool setback, the dotted line. That would be a 10-foot setback from from the legal line. So what you're asking is if we were to maintain 15 feet, you'd have this 15 feet from the exterior line. Got to add another, that exterior area that we're adding, meaning the lot parcel 2, I believe is 9 feet depth. So we just kind of extrapolate 9 feet plus another 6 feet from that.
The blue arrow you have there, is that where we would need 20 feet, Trey?
So again, this illustration assumed that the setback was 10 feet. And that would meet the 10 feet. So by extrapolation, you'd have to kick this pool back another 5 feet. So simply, just looking at the dynamics of this view of the rear, you'll see that to push this pool back another 5 feet would make the pool impractical. And we would propose, and I'm happy to go through, we do have the position that all of the elements of variance are met here.
But you can do a pool without the variance. This is my question.
Yeah, and I agree with Joan.
That's not
This
what you're,
isn't helping me enough.
Yeah.
Isn't there another slide where you actually had the new home and the new pool on that?
That is the new home. Those are the plans for the new home. And
And
that's the rear extrapolated.
and the outside line, dotted line would be that to the edge of the property that's going to be brought into the town.
That's correct.
And so that blue arrow you're showing, how many feet is in that blue arrow that you've got there?
That's 10 feet.
Oh, and it
10
needs to be,
10
needs to
foot
be
six.
15 or 20?
Right, so that's to require
Needs to be 20.
15 feet, well, no, it's 15.
Accessory structure based on the interpretation of the town.
Yeah, the debate is between 10 and 15, not 20. So the 15 feet would kick us back another 5 feet from that.
I'm sorry,
current
is
line.
it 10 or 15 or 20?
Our application
I'm sorry,
says,
15 or 20. I know it's not 10.
Our
application says 20.
it's 15. The
it's
exterior,
15.
it's 15 feet.
Okay.
I think this town is
It's not 20.
not 20. It's
that
an
true,
it's an
Trey?
interior beach, it's 15 feet. For a
Wait a
minor
minute.
accessory. The issue is whether the exception to the 15 feet applied, which would kick you to 10 feet. That was the issue.
Smaller lot. That exception is
So-
lots less than 15,000 square feet and this is 10,000.
Okay, well,
There's, the issue is that the applicant is having problem with, and I've talked to the architect, whether this is an interior lot. If you annex, it's not an interior lot, it's water connected to the intercoastal waterway, and the setback for minor accessory structures would be 20 feet and the principal structure would be 30 feet.
Okay.
Right, so I'm sorry, because we weren't.
There's a lot of moving parts here, so.
Some of the arguments made.
So 20-foot setback from the new annex property line still makes it almost impossible to have a pool. You just have a water feature.
I think
Right.
we're talking about the major structure. Accessory structure is 15 or 10, depending if it's interior or not.
That's correct.
So I'm assuming this is not an interior lot. You're not building anything until the parcel 2 is annexed, so it's not an interior lot, right?
So with the waterfront, I don't think anyone's,
Because we're assuming the other 2 variances are going away. We're solely
Correct.
focused on the pool after the lot parcel 2 is annexed. So now let's start from there. Now go.
Yeah.
right, okay, so let's consider this a waterfront lot.
Right.
It's the minor accessory structure is 15 feet under the code.
okay. So it's 15.
Yes.
It's not the 20.
Forget, the 20
So
was based on an
moving
argument of,
target here.
right, that.
And you
that
can't
there's
have a
no longer-
pool.
At the annexation, that interpretation is no longer relevant because it's not an interior lot any longer under the setback requirement of a rear setback of the structure. So with the setback being 15 feet for the minor accessory, on this illustration, that would push us back another 5 feet, making the pool rather impractical to build for the home.
So,
That's your opinion.
Right, well, that's the.
Correct.
Craig also said, hey, the next door neighbor immediately to the west, that pool is maybe 10 feet off the water, maybe.
It's a pretty
but
old
this is a
house
new
though.
construction.
It's new construction.
New construction
Yeah.
goes by different rules.
Yeah.
And variances are not, I don't see a reason for a variance still.
My
So,
pool's
yeah.
pool's 10 feet wide.
Is it?
Yeah, this is 30 by 20. I can't read. What's the dimensions of that pool? that you
30 by
proposed?
15?
Mhm.
What's the dimension?
Yeah.
They can also pull the pool
Yeah,
closer.
15 by 30 is.
You can pull the
Yeah.
pool a little closer to the house too, if you needed to. Make it a L-shaped pool or something. You're right, it's brand new.
It's a new construction and has to apply to the rules. And variances, you don't meet the variance requirements, in my opinion. But also, the only thing I'm concerned of, if we approve this contingent on the annexation, did you say that we can't approve it condition on annex?
They
This is
just-
a technicality.
They just
Of
can't
course.
move, they can't, we can approve it, they just can't do the demolition or work. They can't do anything.
Is that true? I mean, is that
Mhm.
legally true once we approve it, but it can't?
No building permit, no demo permit.
Yeah,
But
we could
wait a minute,
approve it,
didn't I
we
hear
could
Trey
approve
say
it
that-
subject to,
we can't make
annexation.
it subject to the annexation? Didn't I hear you say that?
I mean, we could maybe make it subject to a unity of title being filed with the property, and that
Right.
But it
indicates
cannot
that.
be technically subject to annexation, just unity of title would be correct, legal.
I mean, I'd feel more comfortable with the unity of title. We have that elsewhere in the code, and you know, it's easy and
Discussed, yeah.
requires annexation prior to.
I missed the
Right.
last meeting.
Right. Well, I apologize. There were a lot of different theories and coming up, and those are the reasons. Because had you not approved the annexation, the argument was that this was an interior lot. So all that interior interpretation, that would go away now, as the vice mayor had raised. We're going to consider this a waterfront lot, and that we would concur in that with the annexation.
It is a
Um,
waterfront lot.
Yeah, with the annexation of that land, all of the land subject to the code will be waterfront. That's
Correct.
correct.
So
And we would
15
have,
foot setback on the pool.
20 foot.
the pool would be 15 feet. The
No, it would not.
20.
Use reading code.
on
Waterfront, read it's 20 feet on waterfront property.
70,
Water connected to the ICW.
Yep.
And it's 20 feet.
Okay.
What it's always been.
So 20 feet from the new lot line from parcel 2
Mhm.
brings us where?
Well, we can't see it that clearly.
so on section 70, 74 for setback, it looks like for the minor accessory,
Now remember, it's not interior beach. It's the
Right.
last one, water connected to ICWW. It's a north-south zoning district.
I think that was the debate, whether we are interpreting this as an interior, but
Yeah,
either
but we're
way,
not. Yeah.
what we're looking for is the
20.
variance. So if we're going to consider it a 20, I think that would even greater exacerbate the need for special circumstances.
So where is
Because
20
Yeah,
now?
with 20, you're back to the back of the house. He's not putting a pool in with 20 feet. You'd be actually to the rear of the home. And again, we would consider.
No, the rear of the home can't be just 20 feet from the.
It's
from the-
30,
from the
sorry,
new
it's
sea.
30, right.
Correct.
So they're maximizing the maximums.
Right.
rear setback.
On a
We're
water.
going all the way
That's
to
30
the 30-foot line,
And the
right?
front setback is, I mean, could they bring it up? Or is the front setback being met?
Yeah, no, the front setback, I think we're maximizing the front setback.
30 feet.
We're at the same line.
What's the total square footage of this lot now with the annex parcel 2? We know that calc.
I do.
The problem here is it's new.
Yeah,
Excuse me?
10,700. Very,
Is that like one of the smaller ones we have? Because we had a tiny one up over here, which is,
On County Road.
on Oleander, which has been torn down.
It is a smaller lot, and that is part of why they were looking for that special exception, because it would apply to lots of a certain size, but it just, for the rear setback reduction, and I believe someone mentioned County Road, we did approve a special exception to reduce the rear setback for the pool on that particular lot, because it met the criteria, which included being an interior lot. It does not apply to waterfront lots. So
And that did have a, that's the special.
It does have
exception
it has
because they
a
had pool.
small pool that,
And the size of the home was.
The number of 10,000 square foot, 10,000 or 11,000 square foot lots we have now is pretty low, isn't it?
that's correct.
Usually we're averaging what, between 14 and 16 on the small lots?
The actual square footage is 10,914 with the annex parcel.
And I would remind you that the pool up at this lot on County Road was basically 2 swim lanes.
Yeah, no, I know. It's like a lap pool,
Yeah,
I guess. Is that what, yeah, basically.
it's very small.
So due to the myriad of conditions with this lot, and the fact that it's 2022, tell us what's the smallest pool. And it's not going to be 30 by 15 that will work for this plan.
So right now, you're looking at a 30 by 15. That's correct. With the 30 by 15, that dotted line actually is a greater, that 10-foot line from the original property line. That's about where the 20 feet would be by about a half a foot. So because that annex parcel is about 9 foot and change. So if you add the 9 and the 10, you got 19 feet right there. It's probably about a half a foot. That dotted line is about a half a foot off of where 20 feet would be from the new property line being annexed parcel 2. So
Okay, but the purple line is 10 feet and the red one's 20. Is that what you're telling me?
no, the red one's 30. You're
Okay,
looking at an
because it's
illustration.
deceiving how we're looking at this.
Yeah, so I'm using because of the fact that this is just a close-up of the area, but I'm using this from the prior prior presentation, but the dimensions are, if you look at that dotted line, that's right down the middle of the pool.
Okay,
That is 20 feet from the new property line by about 5 or 6 inches.
it goes through the pool.
Yes, that would be 20, that if you were enforcing the
Okay, what
20-foot setback from the.
Well, what about to the edge of the spot, the edge of the current spot? What is that from the property, from the new property line, including parcel 2 roughly?
That would,
The edge of the spot.
Yes, the edge of the current spot.
Like 15.
Maybe 15-ish.
yeah, that would probably be about 15 feet.
I mean, that's about, if a variance for the pool were to be approved with the inclusion of parcel 2, that's about as big as I could conceivably see you going here to accomplish everybody's goals here. Doesn't have the same architectural feel, but like you'd go, that would be the outside edge of your pool. Obviously, presumably you'd have grass or pavers or something extending into the setback.
You mean go to 15 feet, Tom, instead of 20?
Right right here.
Yeah,
It's right there.
yeah, I
at the
see that.
corner.
But I actually wanted to see that in an architectural drawing to see the aesthetics. Correct,
Well, this is the outside edge of your pool.
right?
Right here. That's the variance, or roughly 5 feet, 7
Yep.
feet, something like
Mhm.
that. I mean, we have enough conditioning, funky conditions. Let me get back on my mic.
We have enough weird conditions where, if you think a house in 2022 is supposed to have a pool, and we can make it look as close as we can to what the code provides. And I think it's gonna have to be a 10-foot wide pool. You may or may not have a spa. That's about the best we can do.
They may be able to pull the pool a little closer to the house too, Tom, a couple of feet or something. I don't know. We'd like to see that in a real drawing. Sorry.
Yeah.
May I just ask, in the spirit of, compromise, it would be possible to do something that's more like
Please. Thank you.
And this is the owner, Mr. Pahota.
Would it be possible to do a pool that, let's say is, I don't know, 26 by 13, as a sort of a minimum size pool? That's not a big pool. But at least that would, that would be minimally okay with me. If that's okay with you, trying to find a way to make this work for both of us. I really don't want to pull it any closer to the house because there isn't a lot of room between the house and.
Well, there's code sections too. I mean, you're not supposed to open your sliding glass door and walk 5 feet into a pool. So
Right.
we used to have a series of those over in Lake Ida in the old days.
Given the nature and issues
no, I
that we're
understand.
having here, I'm just hoping.
So all right, so the pool's, 12 by 26 or what have you, and there's a slight variance here. What do we don't have a new site plan here. I've got the old application, I got the new one. I got a pool redesign here, slight redesign. It's not overly complicated, but
It's the width design.
So width of the
Length is
pool.
Okay, it's not the.
well, if they want to look more square, they're gonna have to, as opposed
Pinch
to
it
like
down.
a lap pool, then you
Right.
would have to aesthetically shrink it down, which is what you're thinking, Mr. Bud. I understand.
Exactly. And I'd like to keep it so that like.
It doesn't look like a
The
lap
length of the
lap
pool.
pool. I
and the width
understand.
is like
It's
2
more
to 1, so
square,
I'd say
rectangular.
26 to 13.
I'm happy to go through, I recognize that there are legal prerequisites you have to meet for that variance, and our position is all of them are met here, but I'm happy to go through those for the commission if you wish.
So I've got the size of the pool that needs to be on a new site plan. And we did have architectural conditions which need to be reviewed on the facade that were changed. And I believe we have that in these elevations, so we need to go through those. So,
If you want to move on to
Yes.
discussing those. we can.
sure. So real quick before we move on to those, I mean, if we come back to the pool variance, which is not going to go away once parcel 2 is annexed, like how are we going to approve the final site plan and the final pool size and design? I mean, we can set the setback with the variance now, but we do need an updated plan.
Correct. I mean, would this be a conditional approval?
Oh, there you go. That's
I think-
everybody there.
Mr. Nazzaro's proposal to require the unity was a great solution because we can't do the unity without the annexation. So in essence, you are requiring.
I mean, there's a chance of conditioning well, if we set the variance, your pool's gonna have to comply, but I mean, does it need to come back? The site plan or the pool?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
Absolutely, I think so.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, I mean, until this is annexed, I mean, nothing's going to be
Approved. So
Okay.
it has to come back to us no matter what.
correct.
So wouldn't it make sense to clean all this up and annex it and then do
That's-
these plans?
Yeah, that's a good point from a
I
procedural
mean, I'm just
standpoint.
saying it'd be, instead of all these conditions, since it's going to have to come to us anyway, just clean it all up.
So the only issue with that, the reason we had been attempting to find another way, as the vice mayor had brought up, the possibility of us not slowing down the permitting process, because here's the issue. The issue is, although it is within the purview of the town to have this meeting, the prerequisites of the voluntary annexation, really the issue is time for that. It takes, there's a publication requirement, I think, and it's like a 2-week publication requirement, then a preliminary, and then you vote on it. So you add that time, you're talking about, I would think it's probably 2 months at least.
I don't think we'd be putting through a building permit until after that occurred, though. So if it's
Right.
contingent on,
Unity of title,
Unity of
which is
title.
contingent on the annexation being complete.
Yeah.
Both of those are contingent on issuing the building demo and building permit.
I mean, we're certainly, staff is willing to work with the applicant to expedite as quickly as possible any sort of application that we receive for annexation, getting that advertised and making sure it comes before the commission for approval.
But that process needs to start now.
Yeah, that'll be, I mean, we had just coordinated, we didn't want to file anything without the approval of yourself, so we wanted to make sure that we were on the same page on what will be filed. It is something that will be filed in the next 7 days. These documents are all available. In essence, it's a survey of the land and some statements from the homeowner that will be submitted to the town.
seems to me like the commission wants to work with the applicant, obviously, and we've been doing that all, all morning. And so I think they should have some comfort that we're gonna work out something that will
We're just trying to
the
avoid
owner will be happy.
an unnecessary prejudice, which would be the unintended result of us having to wait months because of the annexation.
All right, so I don't need, yeah, so we don't need the first two variances to do any type of approval today because nothing's, if the annexation doesn't happen, you're coming back and you're gonna be presumably into the spring. And there's a 90% chance it will, from what I understand. And then, so we don't need the first two variance applications because we're conditioning everything on the unity of title of parcel 2. So that's done. So we've got to do these elevation revisions, and we need to approve a variance for a pool, and it's going to be the minimum that the commission can accept for the applicant to get a pool in without, totally having it too close to the intercoastal or waterway. So we're at,
The architectural.
right. And then at some point, you're going to have to really soon submit a revised site plan as to the pool. Now, if that portion of the site plan has to come back to us for approval, even though we're going to approve a variance based on a non-to-scale sketch, then it has to come back. I think you have time to bring back the pool for 10 minutes next month. Obviously there's legal costs if Mr. Bernard is going to come again, obviously, but then the rest of it, I just don't know how much we're advancing your project, but I guess we are. You know what to design, like your construction drawings can move forward, but you're going to move forward with the annexation. We're doing the best we can here.
Appreciate that.
So-
I think maybe we do it as a modification to the plan. I mean, that's when it comes back in. So at least the POTUS can move forward on the preliminary building review for the
And
construction.
we can approve a variance, and any applicant in any town can come back with their plan. Your variances can just be on their own. Oh, I need this, and you come back with the site plan conforming to the variance. You do that in commercial projects as
So
well.
all we need right now is the variance for the pool and come back with everything. Is that correct?
Well, we'd approve the facade elevation with the changes, approve the site plan for the home, and then they're going to have to come back with a modification or update to the pool next month. And at that point, with the new variance for the pool and it completes and everything stamped, including the new pool design, then it's done.
Okay, do we go to the design? Because
Yeah.
I wasn't here last month, I'm sorry, and I was looking at, this is very modern, contemporary looking. And I see you put some shutters on it.
Yes.
And a railing, is that, I can't tell by the picture, maybe a railing or something? No, the railing was there.
You have the before and after. I didn't bring it before.
I'll share. My question is the pitch of the roof different? This almost, is the pitch of the roof, or is it just drawn differently here, or did you change that?
We didn't change the slope of the roof. We left it at the 4 and 12 that we had before.
Because it makes for a very modern,
It might be the view that is from the bottom.
Oh, yeah, that's looking up here.
But that is the front elevation that shows the roof slopes that we have in the house.
It's like looking from the road up.
Mhm.
It's just probably the street perspective. And that's why one of the perspective, the renderings is a little bit more from the top. So you can see that there is actual slope roofs and there is no flat roof.
So
At one point, there was that comment that they look like flat roof.
all you did was put shutters on it, is that?
Well, we added a half roof between.
Yeah, we added the jack or the
Between
that
the
mansard roof
elevator
to-
We
shaft
broke
here.
that, we
Oh,
broke
okay.
the stairwell.
Broke that, okay.
It's behind a
Got it.
We
palm
changed a
tree
little bit
here,
the
but-
detail of the railing in the front, on top of the door.
Mhm.
And also we added, shutters on the second floor windows and also on the first floor window that originally didn't have any shutters. To bring a little bit more of the Anglo-Caribbean style of the house.
The one
Make it-
window, does that have shutters on it right above the front door, or no?
That, right above the front door doesn't have shutters, no. Because the shutters was gonna start getting,
much?
too close, and the proportion with the walls and the amount of shutter was gonna be a little bit too much.
And then we do have shutters on all the other 4 windows on the second floor.
And
What about down at the lower level of the stairwell shaft? Is there shutters on that?
No, there is no shutters. Again, we tried a couple of versions with the shutters, but it was gonna start conflicting with the brackets that we have supporting that mansard roof or shed roof, actually.
You altered the front door somewhat. It was all glass.
Yes, it was all
before.
glass. We added the mullions and we added the quarter of the door is gonna be solid.
The staff might, if we're allowed to make some suggestions, based on what we've seen in the past, perhaps a more vertical look, to these windows by adding muttons, vertical muttons. The other would be perhaps, did you consider putting the Chip and Dale feature there on that rail on all 3 of the panels instead of just one in the middle? The other thing, if you look at P5,
Oh, you got it. Look at this. No.
Yeah, I'm looking at
P5, if you see the garage doors, it appears to be a significant distance from the top of the garage door to the eave. And so it appears longer on this drawing versus these color renderings. And our suggestion would be if there was some kind of a garage detailing on top of those doors, just some kind of a band to
make it more traditional.
yeah, to reduce the distance and there's just kind of a void there. So those are just thoughts that we had come up with.
What we have done in the past when we have bigger headers on top of the garage doors, is we put the light fixture, like those gooseneck light fixtures on top of the garage door, so it fills up the space between the garage door and the overhang. Is that a possibility?
So the lighting, you've got lighting on the 3 columns on the garage.
Yeah, those will
already.
go away, and then we'll have like a gooseneck on top of the garage door.
Oh, I don't think that
No.
would be anything we want.
No, I think
Okay.
where the,
No,
just
we were
sort of a-
just thinking about some kind of banding, like an eyebrow on top of those doors to reduce the,
break up the flat space.
yeah, that's all.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah.
The garage doors themselves. Yeah.
Correct, yeah.
Mhm.
The distance between the garage door and the eaves.
But no,
It's just
not
it's
gooseneck,
just
yeah.
right
No,
there. Yeah, no.
512 would be a lot better.
What?
What? The roof.
Maybe by 8
As
inches
opposed
foot.
to the 412.
Yeah,
There's
okay,
the
that was my
roof,
question with the
seeing
roof
the-
height.
Yeah, the pitch is 412, which is the minimum,
Yeah.
but we've had suggestions of perhaps making that 512.
Okay. Is that a possibility too, making the roof height 512 instead of 412? Just to give it some more dimension instead of making it look so,
512
Mhm.
instead of 412. The problem that I see, because the house is very shallow, I mean, the tagging is only at 21 feet. So if I go with a 5 and 12, it's gonna start looking that has too much roof comparing to the amount of wall that we have in the house. So that proportion is gonna start making it look very heavy, if it makes sense,
No.
I understand from the rendering perspective that yes, that way you're gonna see more roof, but the fact that you have so much roof on top is also gonna make it look heavier, the house on the roof. It's a possibility. We can try a version with that. That the intent of that 4 and 12 was because of that. We didn't want to make it the proportions, too heavy on the roof.
but the staff had suggested 512, is that correct?
We've had some recommendations
Yeah.
about that. It just appears that there's kind of a lack of detail, which I think makes it
Makes it look modern,
more
contemporary. I'll put contemporary, and I know that's a big deal in Delray right now, but prohibited here.
Sorry, the 4 and 12?
I'm sorry?
No, you said, and because we're talking about the 4 and 12.
Yeah, 512 is one suggestion,
Uh-huh.
but I think the reason it perhaps appears contemporary is because there's kind of a lack of detail, banding or any kind of detail.
Yeah, all the windows, they have bandings and outriggers, and, we have the siding on the second floor, base moldings on the first floor, brackets.
I think when we the staff, when we sat down for a pre-app,
Mhm.
I can't remember who it was with, perhaps you.
Mhm.
I mean, I think our first comments were, this looks very contemporary.
Yeah, I remember because I remember the comment that was, it looked like a flat roof house. And
That's one, but there's a lack of detail on the walls, which you drive down A1A and look at the houses in Ocean Ridge, and you see that a contemporary house has got no detail on the walls. And so I mean, I think that those were some of our first conversations that we had.
yeah. No, that's why we have, the sidings on the second floor, vents around the windows, the shutters, outriggers with breeze board. We have the baseboard on the first floor. We have the brackets.
And
So I'm not sure what
if I could
details
just
will be the ones.
mention to the
missing.
commission, if you remember when the house down, the Browns house, remember Mark Marsh made the presentation that there was one side wall that was just
2 stories.
Yeah.
blank, and the residents across the street mentioned that, and he came back with some banding that looked very nice. He broke it up, so.
You have banding under the front windows of the house? Is that
Yeah.
what that
Mhm.
is? It's like
Yeah, we have
like a
baseboard.
wainscot sort of a look, or
Yeah, we
banding?
have the baseboard on the windows and then a band around the windows, all the openings, they have a band.
Which is hard to see, but that's, maybe,
Yeah, it's up here,
it's this
right?
banding, no, this little bar right here. They've got kind of a hardy plank or kind of a,
On the second
on the
floor.
second floor.
I think if you put some detail on the garage doors and
That's the
put
main
the
thing.
roof pitch to 512, it'd be pretty good.
Vertical buttons.
Vertical
Vertical muttons.
3 things.
And the rail over the front door, we wanted to make that.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'll ship it there like that.
Would you be opposed to have only, because 3 is gonna start getting very busy, so if I do 2 with verticals in between?
Sure.
just three-
I think, yeah, that would.
I think because 3 is gonna be a
It'd be
little
too
bit
busy
too
with
much.
3.
I can see that, yeah.
The other option that we can do also as far as the garage and that space from the garage door, I can lower a little bit of the roof of the garage to make that space between the garage door and the roof a little bit.
Okay, I mean,
less.
that would still be within our code for eve heights and whatnot. I mean, there's just, it just appears
Yeah.
there's a significant space there that, so I think your suggestion would work. I think it's just reducing that, there's just space there that looks like it needs.
But your coach lights are fine. I don't do
Mhm.
those.
Yeah, I'm not gonna-
No goose necks.
No, I'm not gonna, I'm gonna leave the gooses on, this on the leg.
No goose necks.
Yeah.
Coach light. No, but those are fine. I think as long as we can work with you on doing the roof and the railing and the garage doors, is everyone happy with that sort of?
See a drawing.
I'd say a drawing.
Oh, definitely, yeah.
And we want to see a drawing with the new proposed pool size and
Are you okay
location.
with that?
Mhm.
I think so. I just don't really understand the roof changing there. Will that look funny relative to the left side of the house? If the roof on the right side above the garage is lower?
So then it should probably have some.
Yeah, don't
treatment.
lower that roof.
Yeah, it should have some treatment then above.
Yeah.
It's
From the
symmetrical
band.
with the left side.
For a different option, if they were open, a different option. So we're gonna work on a detail between the garage door and the roof.
I wouldn't bring it down.
Yeah,
It's in level with the other side of the house.
That's
Just
right.
some detail above the garage
Yeah,
door.
correct.
You said
Maybe
banding, it's just like sort of
some kind
a framing. above the
Correct,
garage.
yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Just that stark area above the
And
two doors.
you're right, bringing the roof down would not look good.
Don't
Right.
do that. With the height.
Okay. And, do you think having 2 of those X's will 3 sound seem busy to me?
Yeah,
No,
that makes sense to
That's
us.
fine.
It
Yeah, the
does.
Yep.
Yeah, that's good.
Okay.
And
Vice
they
Mayor?
meet the code.
Anything else that you?
No, but they do meet the code. We look at those front entryways, as you know, very closely, and they meet the code.
And the back meets all the codes.
Yeah.
Vice Mayor? Vice Mayor?
That's Mr. Lyons.
Yes.
He's up on the
I
roof.
I haven't been asleep. I've been listening. Thank you.
I didn't
Um,
even know you were here.
I'm sorry not to be with you, but I had an incident that makes me unable to travel. I've reviewed both the first session on this application and the second one. I think we've made good progress on the architectural style from what appeared to be, not appeared, it was modern, contemporary, whatever term you want to use. Sounds like that you've recommended a lot of different changes, all of which I embrace. What I'm having a problem with is how we proceed now, because I think you really need to see a new set of drawings and elevations and see how all these different changes come together in some visual presentation, which I think is the sort of the standard operating procedure. So I'm afraid if we would try to approve something today, something might fall between the cracks, just a thought.
We're gonna need another look at this.
We agree with you, Paul. I think,
Yeah, I think I.
Vice Mayor.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So do we need just really a motion to table? Or do you want?
So you would just have a motion to defer to the next meeting and give direction on exactly what you seek from the applicant as far as the changes that we've discussed.
Right, so you've got a 512 roof pitch on the top, on the second story roof. Obviously, your mutton pattern's going to be changed to, what do we call that, a 4/4
It's like,
with a horizontal, vertical, horizontal and vertical mutton pattern
On each side.
each side. You're going to add some detail above the 2 garage doors. That roof stays the same. And then on the south elevation, obviously the mutton patterns is going to change.
If you want that
That's like a
lower
4/2.
busy.
Yeah. And what about the on the upstairs? What about on the downstairs with those floor to ceiling windows and doors in the back on the south?
You couldn't put buttons on those, it'd be dizzying.
Yeah. Because we leave those, just the upstairs.
Yes.
Should they put more of the pattern in here, or is that okay?
I think that's okay with 2.
It's
In the
2.
back.
It's 2 now, and it's different. Yeah, I think it's so. The front will be 2 and the back will be 2.
Yeah, I think that works.
Okay.
Okay. and
So
then-
Tom, to be straight on, all the windows on the lower floor on the back would remain like they are here.
Right,
We'd prefer buttons on the top to match the
Yep.
front of the house.
right.
On the back.
And then
Back to. match
Then you
the
got horizontal and vertical muttons on the top, the front doors, and on the windows on the upstairs and downstairs on the front facade, the north facade. I think that's
Vice-
it. And then we're
Vice
looking
Mayor?
for, yes,
Just one consideration. The lights that were shown in the rendering were all glass, and they tend to me anyway, and I think it would be fair classification, call them more contemporary. If you put some kind of metal frame, it would just, I think, fit in better for the Anglo-Caribbean.
These lights are they silver, pewter, whatever?
silver.
What are you suggesting? Black ones or,
What am I suggesting?
yeah, not black, no. Yeah,
No, they look like there's not much of a frame. It's more just all glass around the bulb. I could be wrong.
So
So,
No, they do have a
Square.
They have
yeah, there's a,
framings and
The square
it's
frame
not
around.
only glass and the bulb. They do have a metal cap and frame around and detail.
Oh, okay, good. Thank you.
Yeah, it's
there's
not all
a
glass.
Fixture on the drawings, example, right here. You saw.
Okay. And then the pool. Where do we land on the pool? Pool's supposed to have a variance going from,
From 10 to 15. I mean, 15
Instead of.
Could I
instead of
respect,
10.
yeah, respectfully just ask on that, we allow for maybe 14, so I can have a 13-foot pool and, going from the house to the water, and then 26
so
wide.
you're angling
without-
for 13 by 26. I think that's, and then you have the corresponding variance to accommodate that.
Yes.
I think that's reasonable, or within like
Yeah,
12 inches.
we're going to see that drawn to scale, so
Yeah.
we'll see it.
13.
I hate to say we need a visual, but a visual will help.
Sure,
But
we
hear
can
what
definitely
you're
do that.
And you think they meet all the criteria for the variance?
Well,
Because we don't give variances
Well,
out.
It's a pretty-
right, and we're
it's a
not,
Small lot. It's a
we're,
tough
I mean, at this point, it sounds like we're deferring the application. So to the extent that there's a revised site plan that shows where the pool is, they'll be able to make their arguments at the meeting about why that is, the minimum variance needed and all of the other criteria that need to be met.
But I think it'd be good to give them some guidance.
Yeah,
We're
yeah,
going to agree
yes,
with
I'd really
them.
like,
I don't
I
wanna
mean-
push you off anymore.
I'd really like to have,
And
know we have support.
I just
I
wanna make-
completely agree and understand, but Mayor Morgan's not here. He may have a different opinion and try to
Yeah.
steer things somewhere else. So I didn't want to say 14 feet, 15 feet is good when he
Yeah.
may have a very strong opinion one way or the other.
It can be subject certainly to, final approval, but I'd certainly, would be nice to know that I've got the support of this group that's here today.
For,
to
I
move
mean, for the
forward.
purposes of the drawing and what he's presenting next month, I think absolutely you should give him guidance, but I just don't
Yeah.
want to indicate that
No, I.
that's going to be a slam dunk based on, okay.
Paul, how do you feel about this, wherever you are? Paul?
sure.
I just want to get a consensus, not
Yeah,
a guarantee of anything because my
yeah,
client's
yes,
not here.
yes.
I just,
But
I just,
want to, and
right.
also I still am unclear about the criteria for them.
I'm happy to go through those criteria, the legal criteria, if that would assist the commission. Because we did have those criteria were in place for the prior hearings. So I'm happy to go through those.
I mean,
I think they're the same grounds that were available for the first hearing. So I'm happy to go through it. And I think there's a number of them. And if you want to pull up my presentation, the first condition is that special conditions and circumstances exist which are peculiar to this site, not applicable to other sites. And I think that's
and that would
exactly.
be the lot size.
That would be one of a number of circumstances. I think as a whole, A, it's the lot size. B, it's the fact of the annexation of the lot. C, it's the fact of the design of the home and the location, making the pool and in effect, the pool setback application impractical for the lot. So again, if we're looking at a 20-foot setback, if we're to apply a 20-foot setback, special circumstances would exist to this lot. Because in essence, what you'd be saying, to extrapolate that to the home, you'd have to build a home that's even smaller than the 2,900 square feet that's presented. And I would.
And the new, once we annex, the new FAR is within our codes for sure.
That's correct. With the house design, the way we presented the plans, we were within the allowable 33%. It was only with the exclusion of that lot too, for the parcel, that required the variance on the floor area ratio, but it's not needed with the design in place. So again, I would think that to consider the fact that the home meets the floor area ratio, but then you can't put a pool. Those are the special circumstances that exist, very peculiar to this lot. This is one of the smaller lots in Gulfstream, 10,900 square feet. So we would propose that the primary,
Keep saying 2,900 square feet. I have a 3,598.
the under
AC space.
air conditioning space. Yeah.
We don't worry about.
Yeah, with, he's just using a different figure.
Right, so
He,
just as an extrapolation of size, that's all. The 3,500 is the entire structure, but the under air would be the 29.
Okay, well, yeah, we use the entire square footage.
So number 2 is that the special conditions and circumstances.
No, they meet the.
they meet it, he's just trying
He's
to
using the- he's
explain
using
by,
under air.
by reference that, you know, the
Yeah, just
livable.
to give you an idea of
Right.
house size, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
So-
thank you.
So, yeah, so that's number 1. I feel that as a whole, all of these factors that we've been talking about are very peculiar to lot, to the 996 Pelican Lane are met. And I would also point out the argument I had made earlier, which is the fact that this is a lot that's evaded redevelopment for a number of years. Chain of title will show that there were a number of different attempts to build at this property. These are the practical,
That's not a hardship. I'm sorry.
but that does mean number 2, which is that none of this is from the origins of the current owner. So one of the prerequisites you'd have to find for a variance is that the situation, the special circumstances weren't created by the Pahotas, and certainly they didn't create these issues. They came into those issues. That would be number 2. And number 3 is granting the variance will not confer any special privilege that is denied to other lands, structures, and buildings under the same zoning. We would propose that those meet those requirements, that if you look at the other lots on the street, the pools have very similar setbacks. So the practical result is that they're going to have a pool, much as the neighbors on Pelican Lane. That's your
Are
third
the houses
requirement.
the same size as this one? Are they smaller?
They're bigger, actually. They're larger. They have one of the small, the 996 Pelican Lane is one of the smallest lots on the street. So those are actually bigger homes.
There is one smaller lot on Pelican, but in Driftwood Landing, it is one of the smaller lots, yes.
Yeah. So that's number 3. We feel that meets the requirement number 3. They're not getting a special privilege that these other lots would get with the pool. Number 4 is to describe the literal interpretation of the regulations, how that would deprive the applicant. Again, same argument. If we're to apply the 20 feet, the practical result, and I should read the entire requirement, is that the literal interpretation of the regulations would deprive the applicant of rights commonly enjoyed by other properties subject to the same zoning. Again, the same argument. If you're to apply the 20 feet, the literal interpretation, they would be denied the ability to build a very similar structure, minor accessory structure, as those same lots that are their neighbors and the surrounding structures around them. They would not be able to have a full-size pool or any, with the 20 feet, you essentially negate their ability to have any pool. Number 5 is that the variance is the minimum variance that will take possible to meet the reasonable use of the land. That's precisely what we're asking for. We're asking for the minimum amount to back us up so they can build a minimally acceptable pool with similarly situated homes in the zoning area. Number 6 is that granting the variance would not permit to be established or reestablished any use prohibited in that zoning district. I don't think this is relevant. We're allowing a pool, which is certainly not something that's otherwise prohibited in other parts of the zone. Number 7, granting the variance is consistent with the goals, objectives, and policies in future land use map. Again, we're not doing anything out of the ordinary that any other house in the district is. This is a single family home of modest size, and we're looking to put a very acceptably sized pool in the home. So we are not looking for anything that's outside of what is the residential objectives of the future land use map and the comprehensive plan. And finally, 8 is granting the variance will be in harmony with the general purpose and intent of existing regulations, will not be injurious to the neighborhood or otherwise detrimental to the public welfare. Again, same argument. The end result is that what the proponents are looking to do is to build a modestly sized home comparable to those sizes in the neighborhood, and to build a modestly sized pool within the very short space that's allowable, taking into account that they are maximizing the size of the home to the existing rear setback. That is relevant when considering where to put the pool. That situation is doesn't exist on the neighboring lots where those are larger homes. Possibly they would have had a redesign of the home if that was before you. What we're considering here is fitting the pool within the existing parcel of land that they're allowable to do that. So we'd argue that all of the 8 requirements are here. And you do have the information to consider that variance. And possibly we do consider the variance that they then come back with the plan, but what we'd be asking for is the variance to push them back. That would be a 16-foot setback, or I'm sorry, a 14-foot setback.
Yeah.
From the annexed land, similar to the requirements of approval with the annexed land. And we'd be asking the commission to approve that today.
So if it was an interior lot with like the special exception we did up here, would it be 15 or
It would be 10.
10? Okay.
I think all of those requirements all kind of speak to the same issue. I know there were a number of requirements that you have to consider. There's 8, but they all really say a very similar aspect, which is we're not asking for anything a problem that they created, and we're certainly not asking for something that's out of what is already granted to the other homes in the zoning district, and specifically right on Pelican Lane. In fact, they're immediate neighbors. This pool will exist in harmony with the Pelican Lane Street.
Does everyone agree?
Well, no, I don't agree with all 8 points that way, but I think I think what you're wanting from us today is just some feel that we aren't necessarily granting the variance, but would like to see plans drawn that show something that is what you're requesting. Would you say 14-foot setback instead of 20?
I think it's 14 feet. So that would permit the Pahotas to build a 13-foot, 13 by 26 size pool, which below standard.
Yeah.
Well, we'd like to see that with no commitment that we're going to say, okay, but you're hearing this. We're not absolutely saying no way at all. We're not saying
12 by 20 or something, 12 by 18.
And your lot size?
Vice Mayor,
My lot size is 8,000.
Uh-huh.
Paul.
Mr. Lyon.
Yes. Commissioner Lyons?
I know it's awkward, so I apologize for interrupting. So a couple of points to reflect on. One, I've heard from the applicant that, his hands a little tied because it's a small property. And just in terms of perspective, that's what he bought. It was a small property that has smaller homes and et cetera, et cetera. So the other comment I would make, a more constructive one, would be if a variance would be considered, I think the proposal of 30 by 15 is too large. And maybe it needs to be more like a lap pool. And by the way, we have approved other pools in small lots, but they were in compliance with the setback. And those pools became more like, I don't know, soaking pools, whatever. But you at least got the aesthetics of a pool. So I guess what I'm getting at, there's some balance here. If we could get to the variance, I know for one commissioner, my feeling is the pools need to be smaller and more like a lap pool. So that's my.
Right, we're looking at the minimum required to have a reasonably functional pool, and you're probably not going to be swimming in it per se. So.
Yeah, we propose the owner is requesting from the commission to consider the fact that what we are talking about and what we're asking for is a pool. And our feeling is a lap pool is a different type of structure. It does not afford, and we would think it's a different type of option. And what we're in essence to allow a lap pool would be to not allow a pool. That's like allowing a jacuzzi as opposed to a pool. So we're asking for the minimum size to allow him to put a pool, and a 13-foot by 26-foot pool is actually below standard size of a pool. That's the request.
Yeah, I mean, it was my wife and I would certainly appreciate your support and compromise on this, you know, on understanding sort of the issues we're in. And, you know, I heard a comment made earlier, you know, with respect to having the, you know, kind of the glass, you know, the all glass with a couple of pillars in back that, okay, they, you know, paid a lot for the property and they want the views. And, you know, I have a different circumstance, and I'm not asking for something that, you know, I think is, you know, very unusual. I just want a functional pool. And to me, you know, 16 and 26 by 13 is minimally but functional as a pool and acceptable. And I'm just hoping that we can compromise and, you know, land on that. With, if that's the 14-foot setback, I would really appreciate that you guys consider that. You know, I'd love if you could give me approval today, but I'd at least like to know, you know, that I have your support, Mr. Vice Mayor, and the other, you know, members of this commission, you know, as we move forward, knowing that, you know, it's, you know, it could change, but and you need to see it, but I'd like to have your approval or support as we move forward.
Well, we're not going to approve a variance for the pool today. All this has got to
Okay.
come back.
Okay.
I mean, in my opinion, I'm supportive of you building a pool here. I think the
Thank you.
house needs some sort of
Thank you.
pool. Now, what that looks like, you know, in conjunction with a, you know, as small as variance as possible or none, you know, remains to be approved by the commission when you bring it back. But, you know, again, I think you should, you know, in my opinion, I think maybe there's some other commissioners, I can't speak for them, but when you come back, depending on who's on the dais at that time, I think that probably, you know, there'll be a discussion that 13 or 14 by 26 is too big of a pool, even if we're trying to compromise and help you out. I do agree with Mr. Bernardi. You've got a lot of different conditions here, a lot of different things that are swirling, and you're, you know, it's like, well, I need a variance, but I've got to have a house that's minimally functional in 2022 on a 10,000 square foot lot, which isn't necessarily a reason, but we get it. So I would strongly consider trying to get the pool as small as possible to suit, you know, to satisfy the needs of you, or if you sell it next week, the next buyer. You know, we get all these, you know, I've been doing this a long time, even though I may not look it. We get all these, you know, great stories, and then the owners are gone 6 months. Not that you will be. We hope you're in the neighborhood a long time, but we've got a plan for the next owner, the neighbors, and the view, and people next door. And, you know, we've got friends that live in Delray at the end of the basin, you know, which is a different town. So all those different things as well. So, and then of course the house just to the west is an older home, which wouldn't conform to our code now. So, you know, all those things we have to take and consider, but I would just urge you to really think about the pool and whatever minimum variance you're going to propose for the next meeting to be, you know, as minimally acceptable as possible, you know, for you. And then we'll take a look at it. And then are you all, we got to keep moving here. We're coming up on noon. Are you all okay with the, you know, which is also vitally important, the, you know, I guess third round of changes or proposals for the front and rear facade? Yes. Okay. And those conditions, staff has a record of those too. So I think with that and the annexation speeding along, which we all agree should be done, also erases 2 out of the 3 variances right off the bat. So your floor plan of your home does not need to change, smaller, larger, front, back, even with the annexation, which helps. And we'll table it to the next meeting. then hopefully the third time is the charm here. Yeah,
When's the next?
The third day will be September 9th at 4 o'clock.
okay.
Not 9 o'clock, 4 o'clock. Yeah.
So we would just need a motion to defer to a time certain.
I make a motion to defer it, and with guidance to what we suggested. I think that's it.
And can we have a second, please?
Second, please.
Roll, please.
Commissioner Arthright?
Yeah.
Commissioner Smith?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Stanley?
All right. Yes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for all your hard work. I think we're about there. Next on the agenda, we've got town manager reports. Keep moving here.
Okay, yes, sir, thank you. So, once again, we have the utility undergrounding that basically is done. There's 2 poles that are in an easement between 2 houses along A1A. You can't see them from the road, but we're having difficulty getting access to be able to take those poles out. So we're working on that, but I hope you've noticed the difference, the way A1A looks.
Yeah,
Rob,
a lot better.
it looks great. So, and thank you, Mr. Ganger. So I'll let Trey give an update on the auto dealership.
Thank you, Mr. Town Manager, Vice Mayor, and Commissioners. We have a meeting. It's our final meeting before the Delray Beach City Commission on Tuesday, I believe it's the 16th. I've been there for the Planning and Zoning Board meeting and the first reading. The first reading was before the City Commission last month, and it did seem to go very well. There were 2 members of the Delray Beach Commission that indicated that they were interested in hearing the applicant's presentation only, but didn't sort of give a sign off. So they have 2 readings for a rezoning. If it doesn't pass first reading, obviously it doesn't go to second reading, but they reserve the applicant's presentation for second reading. So they were really just taking public comment at the time. And we had 2 people that indicated that they were voting in favor of the rezoning on first reading only to hear the applicant's presentation. So, you know, we're hopeful. We've still continued to work with the developer and try to get some concessions. Those don't seem to really be adequate to what some of our residents want. You know, they're limiting their agreeable buffer on the, you know, between the property and the potential automotive commercial property and our, you know, multi-million-dollar single-family homes over there in Place Au Soleil to 10 feet. That's all they could agree to. We believe that in the event that it does pass, we'll continue to be very active in the site plan review and appearance board process. But for right now, we're really trying to, you know, fill the seats with Place Au Soleil residents to make sure that the City Commission understands that this is an important issue to our residents. And with that, I'll kick it back to the town manager.
Any questions? Okay, so the staff has become concerned about securing the maintenance area behind Town Hall and the Public Works building. We have some new equipment back there. We have a lot of equipment that's sitting out there. So without taking too much time, we will be looking at, we're probably looking at fencing. I mean, we don't even have security cameras back there, so we'll be looking at fencing, keeping in mind our rules and regulations about chain link fencing, and we would try to come up with a plan that would be, it would be nice, and but it would have a gate on it that you know, that would be opened in the morning. I mean, we do have a lot of people that use that area, contractors and whatever, so we would have it open in the morning, but it'd be locked at night. We're concerned about our equipment back there.
Okay, I agree.
So we'll come back to you with that. And as you know, we've talked about doing installing a tree farm back here in the back, and I know our Anthony here has planted some new Australian pines out on A1A, but he's investigating. Obviously, if we do a tree farm, we've got to have some irrigation back there. There's an old irrigation line that we haven't found yet. Probably doesn't work anymore, but getting the water back there is not a cheap endeavor. So if you want to hear from him and people that he's talked to in terms of getting that water to us, I think we've been talking in amounts of what, $17,000 to $18,000. And you can,
They have to what?
Directional boring? Oh, they do? Yeah, they can't just dig a trench.
yeah. So
So what, you take it off the road up here?
The county road.
The county road?
It would have to be brought in from either county road
Uh-huh.
or right here off of Sea Road where it makes the turn in front of the golf course. But the longest run is where we investigated mostly right now because there's so much rock that's on the county side road for the west side of the property to come into our section. So there's a lot of coquina that's underneath that section there that would be probably difficult to try to, open trench it and run the line in there. So the only way we would be able to do it would be directional boring, but even then it'd still be kind of complicated because so much rock that's there.
So we're looking into it and
Okay.
trying to get the costs, and we do have money to do that in this budget, just to let you know, but we certainly will come back to you with whatever our plans are for that.
Okay.
Where are we?
Item 5.
Okay, so the update on the interlocal agreement with Highland Beach. Some of this happened when I was away, but the town commission for Highland Beach met on, it was August 2nd. They had an individual that called into question why they were doing this. He was not happy with it. Apparently there is a group of people that he is kind of the spokesperson for. So the town commission there, they sent it to what they call it, the financial advisory board for their review. And that board meets on August 23rd. The town commission then has a special meeting on August 25th, in which case they could hear, the recommendation of the financial advisory board, and they can take action on it on the 25th. So the staff's suggestion is, if that happens, that please be prepared that we would try to get together a special meeting. What are the days of those?
It's a Tuesday and a Thursday. So if we were to have a special meeting, we could potentially do it as early as the 26th, which is 2 weeks from today. So if we could do a lunch or maybe afternoon meeting, just to make sure that we have everything worked out, if that is the desire of the town commission to get that signed off on.
Yeah, I think if it goes through, we should get it signed off as quickly
We'd
as
want to have,
possible for
we've got a lot of
everybody,
stuff being held
because
up.
We've
Yeah,
had
we
people held
do.
up for a long time now.
And we totally are sympathetic to that. We are aware of it.
I don't want to belabor this. Is there any indication that this isn't going to go through though? I
Okay,
mean,
so we had a conversation with the manager this
because you can
week.
kind of get a feel.
Yeah, okay, so
Right?
you're right. So we had a conversation with the town manager there, and the feel we got that it's very positive. Everybody is,
Even this group of people that.
well, no, they're not, but the description of these people are that they're not very positive about a lot of things. But from Marshall, the town manager, his staff made a presentation, a financial presentation to their town commission, and they were very satisfied with it. That it was a benefit to the town of Gulfstream. I'm sorry, to the town of Highland Beach. And so he's had nothing but positive responses from his.
And we do have an alternative should something
We did.
fall through for third-party contracting that went out to
Correct.
bid, correct?
And that would be able to go through right away too.
Yes,
And so
Yeah,
even if we didn't have a special meeting to approve Highland Beach, we would approve one of these other people,
I
correct?
mean,
On the
we
26th.
could, it could be
That
ready
is correct.
for your
I think
approval.
that's perfect.
So
Yeah.
in the meantime, staff will have a
Contingency.
meeting of our,
Yeah.
for the RFP and be prepared to make a recommendation in the event that Highland Beach does not pass. Just to provide a little color, there was some discussion at the Highland Beach meeting about changing some of the language in our proposed RFP, or I'm sorry, proposed interlocal agreement. One of the things that the commission mentioned that they wanted me to include in there is the fees would be the same charge for both entities, and that they would be processed sort of on a as needed basis, or first come first serve. So they're changing those two items. I don't know exactly how the specific language, but they just said first come first serve would be replaced with permits to be processed pursuant to the Florida Building Code. So it doesn't necessarily provide any specific timeline. I think that they were just a little nervous about we're putting in some requirements, I guess, because there are, it says the Florida Building Code stipulates review timeline. So maybe just based on that, they wanted to make sure that their workflow wasn't disrupted based on our interlocal agreement. And the second was the fees charged. The manager mentioned that Highland Beach residents have been getting a permit discount as the reserves have grown over the last few years, and the commission may continue that for Highland Beach residents would create a difference in fees charged. So we will work with them to get some language in there that we're comfortable with. It doesn't just allow them to change it by resolution, and we sort of, we have to take whatever we can get. We may put it in there, the fees would be pursuant to the fee schedule adopted by Highland Beach and as ratified by resolution of the town or something like that prior to any change. So sort of allowing us to have some control over, negotiating power over, okay, well, if you're going to reduce your fees for your residents, that's great, and we're totally fine with that. But we wouldn't want you to be able to just increase our fees if, the commission changes out and they decide that they want to go a different direction.
Offset,
Just as it relates to our current ability to process building permits, I was at the Delray Beach City Commission meeting on Tuesday, where they terminated our interlocal agreement officially. They gave us,
60 days.
as required under the interlocal agreement, they provided 60 days. And I did reach out to the city attorney, and she let me know that we sort of agreed on some language. She said the city will continue to accept permit applications, and the town will review the application to determine which projects are appropriate for the city to process given the 60-day termination notice. So it is not that we are not accepting applications. It's that maybe if we had a stick-built house, as the manager says, approved today, we wouldn't send that to Delray Beach knowing that we have like a 60-day runway. If it's a more simple application, that would be something that we send through. A transition plan will be created to phase out existing permits already under review by the city. And she said there is a reasonable expectation that the work for the permits received will be concluded within the 60-day timeframe. So we do have some runway and the ability to maybe continue offer and process permits, but staff is going to work to figure out exactly how to best manage that, knowing that our interlocal agreement with the city is over in 60 days.
But don't we have a meeting set up with them?
Yes, I'm sorry. And we do have a meeting with them set next week. I believe it's on Friday, to discuss the transition and how they're going to.
What kind of applications we should consider
Right.
submitting?
And as far as the applications that have already been submitted there that are going to be with them for some time, how we manage that, the transition, knowing that they're still going to be inspecting and
I mean, look at the
processing
Davis
those.
house. I mean, the Davis house is not going to be.
Years.
Yeah. So.
Not years.
So the question is, perfect example, like with the Davis house, there's going to be inspections periodically throughout a much longer than 60 days. So how do we manage that transition? This is not new to the town. We previously transitioned from the county to Delray, 15 years ago. Maybe Rita can make sure that she's in charge of that, since she remembers what that was like. As the only person on staff, I think that's been here that long.
So the outstanding
things would be transitioned over to Highland Beach and they would start doing the inspections?
I really don't know how we would manage that. We have to meet with Delray Beach. I think previously we had an interlocal agreement between ourselves, the city and the county that dictated exactly how that would happen. So we may do something similar. It just, we'll report back on that.
Right.
Yeah.
We'll begin those
And-
conversations next week.
Sure, and we can have that for discussion on that special meeting that we call in 2 weeks as well.
Okay, next item we have is compact parking.
We've been approached by one of the clubs in town that is redesigning a parking lot, and they were wondering if we would offer the option to include compact parking spaces. I did reach out to Marty Miner in Urban Design to get his thoughts on that. And he said that currently Delray Beach's regular parking spaces as per code are the same as the county. I mentioned that we may be transitioning to Highland Beach for our building department services. So we looked at those spots and the minimum size was actually larger. And he said he would suggest that we continue to use sort of the standard county size for our regular spots and not use Highland Beach's larger spots. And then as it relates to compact parking, he said that, that's not anywhere in your code and that he felt that it was inappropriate to allow in Gulfstream because we don't have like an Atlantic Avenue where there's a large volume of people that are in and out. And parking is at such a high demand. So his thoughts were that was perhaps inappropriate for Gulfstream, but he's not the one that sets the policy and makes changes to the code. So I just wanted to put that to the commission, as I mentioned to the applicant's agent that I would, to entertain that thought. It would be most likely, would apply to our outdoor recreational zoning district, which is the big club, the little club, the B&T. So they would be able to utilize a certain percentage that we can talk about of compact spaces. And we would define compact spaces probably consistent with, I guess, the size requirements that are standard, such as what Delray Beach uses. So I just wanted some direction before we started talking with our planner or trying to draft an ordinance, if that was not something that you wanted to entertain. Again, it would just apply to the clubs. It would be something they would be able to utilize, but our planner again said that maybe that's not something that should typically be used in these type of areas.
Yeah.
So just looking for some direction.
Yeah, so I spent some number of time, I was not quasi judicial, it's not ex parte, but I spent a number of time talking to the applicant about the parking lot. And Delray, typically when you have a new plan, you're allowed to do 30% compact. I think that's relatively high. So you're kind of weighing two things. There's just some concerns about, older drivers getting in and out. Any driver, doesn't have to be an older driver, but getting in and out of stuff. There's also concern about the use of the valets into compact spaces. And that was also counteracted with the cars are getting smaller. Like I said, I can count on I don't drive one anymore. I can count probably on two hands the number of full-scale Tahoes and Suburbans and things of that nature that are in town, at least in this side of town. Obviously, you have other people coming in and guests and whatnot. So we're looking at sort of an adaptive reuse of these parking lots. So you are able to get more parking spaces to park golf carts and small cars. Seasonal residents typically have a smaller car when they're down here. And again, Trey's right. You've got the three clubs, which are, outdoor recreational community facility, whatever you want to call the zoning classification. You also have to weigh, if there's ever a big multifamily torn down, you want to make sure there's an exclusion for that. We have multifamily projects, you're like a 4001 or something. There'll be another one in town, maybe not in the near term, but maybe in 20 years. And the other thing too, the last part is, okay, how is it going to be applicable to the other two clubs if you allow this? I don't think right now the big club is too much of a concern. There's a lot of room there. Depending on how you look at it, I think the point of concern is the little club because there's some things going on with the site. We talked about taking over the road down there. That's just going to require a big cul-de-sac. which is going to eat up some of their parking, probably 10 or 11 spaces to turn a fire truck around at the end of Little Club Load. So your competing things are, you have one outdoor recreational facility or one club that needs it to do an adaptive reuse of an ugly looking parking lot that would really beautify the part of the town. You have another club that's doing a lot of work too. And so you potentially have two clubs at some point really soon applying for 30% compact. Now you really can't gain any more land in some of these, especially at the Gulfstream Bath and Tennis Club in order to accommodate parking. So it's something the way talking to everybody, I think it's something that should be looked at with all those considerations. I don't really think it should be 20, it's my opinion only, it should be 20%. I'm not a land planner. I've dealt with it a lot in my early days from the first two redevelopment phases of Delray, but I think Gulfstream, something suitable would be 15 to 20%. There's also a factor of how we weigh in the code if it's golf cart only parking, which you do have in downtown Delray if you're thinking out of the box here. And then, there has to be some education if you do something like this, that the staff at these clubs and also the valets and everything are properly trained, when and where to park. And the genesis of this is also allowing the proper landscape buffers for parking lots that don't have the proper landscape buffers in between their spaces. So that's my take on it. I think that, I'm happy you talked to Marty about it. He gave his opinion, which is a justified one. But I think we should probably pursue it, and see where we're at, because a lot of these, the other thing is that we've approved some projects here where there's more square footage on some of these facilities. And so the usage, the turnover between 10 a.m. and 4 p.m. before the dinner in a lot of these places is much greater. Plus everything is full. This is in 1988. So I think there is a need for additional parking, but again, we don't want to compromise or create a public safety issue and compromise the ability to get in and out and do different things. So anyway. I didn't have anything prepared. I just came.
Okay.
Hope it sounds okay.
Well, you did a good job there.
I agree with that.
Okay, so again, just,
So
I want to know about taking this road off and the Little Club losing 10 spaces.
Well-
Maybe they don't want to take.
It's perspective. That's perspective.
Because
That's
a lot
perspective.
of
But
parking.
there's other things that can happen that, clubs are going to come in and try to
Yeah,
maximize the
no.
parking. I just gave an example that's perspective.
they have, just, while we're on the Little Club, they have provided a proposed turnaround plan that utilizes their existing parking lot as opposed to creating a cul-de-sac. So they would lose very few spaces, if any. And we've provided that to our engineer, who has not looked at it yet and is not responsible for providing any comments today.
Well, and the driver here is, is these large gyms, which are not dinner related or golf round related, that, create activity throughout the day up and through lunch. It's increasing the square footage of your usable facility, which then in turn would say, okay, if you're going to have this, regardless of the cul-de-sac, right, or a turnaround for a truck, regardless of, well, we want to expand the parking on these roads by an extra 10 spaces in front of our gym now that you've changed the code. I mean, that's the factor now. There'll be other factors in the future once it's in the code. So.
Parking is a big issue at two of the clubs, 2 out of 3. The third one's, they have enough land. But golf cart parking, I mean, I could see at the Little Club where a lot of people might bring their golf carts, whereas the B&T, not so much. Maybe it's more compact cars. So, I mean, they're a little different. Do you agree? I mean, just a little. Or just use the compact spaces for the golf carts.
Well, we should pursue maybe getting it into our code is what we're saying.
Yeah.
Right?
Correct.
I
It's
think
not in
that's
there
just-
now. We should pursue it. So
Great. So at this point, this was really just a discussion about whether to reach out,
Direction.
right,
That's all.
for
Okay.
Marty to look at something and try to look at how we would accommodate in our zoning code. So before we
Sure.
spend any more, time and plan our money, wanted to make sure that.
I think the
we were
answer
okay
is
with that.
yes,
Yes.
and we want, because it's the town of Gulfstream, we want Marty to be creative with regards to golf carts, ballet, that sort of thing, and with what we're doing. And the recommendation is that we
would not want every club to come in and have 30% compact. It'd have to be a percentage that's much less of the existing parking.
All right, thank you.
Okay.
We are on to Blue Water Cove, a little engineering discussion, I think, about that as well, right?
Wait a minute, let's see.
Are we going budget and then Blue Water?
No, we're gonna do budget and then
Okay,
Blue Water.
Okay, budget next, number 6.
Okay, so this has been a little kind of a strange year with inflation, and then we talked about the budget and did what we were lawfully required to do at our July meeting. And we had 2 people were not at that meeting, so I'm not going to. I think we've talked to Commissioner Lyons and Commissioner Orthwein about the budget to some degree, but I'll review kind of what we did at the last meeting. And again, it was all we were required to do. I'll read some numbers to you, go through those fairly quickly. What I would like to do is shift to a discussion, because our engineer is here, about the most of my conversation with our commissioners has been related to the cost of our CIP projects. Because I think that kind of hit us like a brick wall at the last meeting, and we weren't sure what questions to ask. And so, but let me just say a couple numbers here. Our 23 rollback rate is 3.28 mils. The existing millage rate is 3.67 mils. And so the decision the commission made at the July meeting to set our proposed millage rate was at our current millage rate, again, which is 3.67 mils. And by doing that, it would give the town an additional revenue of $550,000, rounded off. So that would mean the proceeds from the proposed millage rate would be $5,225,000 as opposed to $4,673,000 at the rollback rate. Just for your information, the Gulfstream's gross taxable value increased by 13% in the last year, from $1,258,000,000 to $1,422,000,000. In our budget this year, again, so we've revised the budget for CIP permitting and construction for the core project to $1,887,000, and the CIP permitting and construction and the water fund would be $681,000. So one thing that Rebecca did in this new budget presentation to you, as you can see, the comparison of our total budget with the proposal that we did in July, the total budget was $12,088,000. The changes that she made in CIP construction cost reduced our budget to $9,790,000, our total budget to $9,795,000. The construction for our CIP projects will not start basically until the middle or to the end of the summer of 23. So that's why we reduced the construction costs. Of course, that means in 24, then we'll have, it will be basically loaded up with construction costs. I did ask, and I'm sorry that she had to sit here through all of those applications, but I did ask Rebecca Travis to come here to help us gain a better idea of why the numbers went up so much from our original costs of our CIP programs that were at 6.1 million and are now, I believe, around 11, upwards of 11 million to 12 million dollars. And so she has had this conversation individually, I think, with some of the commissioners, maybe Commissioner Lyons had a personal conversation with her, but I did I did want her to come to kind of give her reasoning and her standard operating procedures in developing these kinds of costs and not wanting to always, not wanting to be the lowest bidder, but one that is higher and more conservative. And so she can explain some of the things in those numbers that we already know will bring the cost of the construction down. I mean, the two alternative numbers that you had in there, for example. So I'm going to switch it over to.
All right, good afternoon.
Yeah.
Rebecca Travis with Baxter and Woodman. So several weeks ago, we provided to the town the preliminary design report for the core area improvements. And as part of that report, we did a cost estimate for about a 30% design status, where we have assumptions made when we did the CIP for the 2018 timeframe. And now that we're doing the cost estimate assumptions for the current project construction starting next year. So this is the 10-year CIP core area improvements cost in 2018 dollars. And the bottom right, you can see the total was 6.078 million. I think if I'm reading that correctly. That's good. So looking at the comparison, I want to kind of go through some assumptions made then, some assumptions made now, and how we can kind of close the gap in the understanding of how the numbers are different. So the next slide, please. So this is our pre-designed core area cost estimate now. We're like at about 11.1 million. That includes general conditions, which is overhead and profit, mobilization, demob, maintenance of traffic, dewatering, and some other as-built information. So then the roadway, stormwater, potable water main, and a 30% contingency. So as I said, I've got a number of different items to talk about, elements of the two cost estimates that I want to go through. So the next slide, first thing we want to talk about is inflation. So the graph on the left is the consumer price index for West Palm, Miami, Fort Lauderdale area. It's kind of hard to read, but from 2018 through 2021, the inflation rate was less than 2% generally. Then in 2021, it went up to 9.6%. So when we did our cost estimate for if we look at our cost estimate from bringing that inflation through on our $6 million number from 2018 through 2023, back then we were assuming like a 2 or 3% inflation rate. So then in today's numbers, that would be about a $6.6 million number. But if we apply a 2% inflation rate from 18 to 21, and then we bump it up to the 9.6% for 21 through 23 when we start construction, we're at 7.6 million. So that differential right there is $1 million. Not necessarily that the next year's inflation rate will be 9.6%. Actually, I think I heard yesterday it's down to 8.6. So it is coming down, but that's a big hit right there in the difference in the estimating. So the next slide. So now we're looking at, again, the 2018 10-year CIP, the $6 million number, that assumed a 20% contingency. Because of the inflation rate unknowns, the availability of construction materials, the timing, the fact that the contractors are pretty busy right now, we put a 30% contingency on our numbers for the construction cost. So that differential is 1.35 million. So It could end up being that the contingency, as we get closer to our final construction plan completion, we usually narrow our contingency number down to like a 10%. But right now we're in pre-planning, pre-design, so we put a 30%. So that's $1 million differential there. Then the next slide. So for cost comparisons on our paving and drainage items, our asphalt pavement section, we identified in the geotech report that we've got some unsuitable materials for under Polo Drive and the areas west. So we added in our design section for the pavement geotextile fabric that helps span the unsuitable material under the road and provides extra structural element to it. And we have a pretty beefed up pavement design in our preliminary design, but we're looking at how we can reduce the thickness of the rock and the asphalt depending on how we move forward with finalizing our design with this fabric and whether we'll need it in all the locations we've assumed. Then the stormwater storage and water quality, when we did the cost estimate, we were still in discussions with South Florida Water Management District on whether we were going to be required to do the lake expansion in the Little Club and whether they were also going to require us to do exfiltration trench in other parts of the project to provide water quality treatment. So since it was unknown which, we put the cost for both, but we're probably only going to have to do one. So that's a $285,000 number that's probably going to come out of our estimate ultimately. And then for our drainage pipe and inlets design, we made a very broad assumption about how many drainage inlets and the connecting pipe we were going to need to provide adequate drainage for the neighborhood. So that's kind of an up in the air. We feel that we have a fat number for that in our current cost estimate, so that should come down when we kind of finalize the design there. Next slide. Then the contractor's administration costs. Typically, we assume a 10% overhead and profit number and a mobilization, demobilization number like a 5%. Again, this is pre-design. When we have projects that are in the multi-million-dollar range, typically the contractor comes in with a lower overhead and profit percentage just by virtue of the size of the project. And then the mobilization, demobilization number, we're anticipating that's probably going to come down as well. Again, we're in pre-design. We just want to keep the number fat. So we're thinking that that's probably going to come down probably $250,000. And then the valley gutter. So we presented on this at the last commission meeting of our recommendation to install valley gutter on both sides of the street in order to be able to collect the runoff off the road and send it to the inlets in a more a better manner, let's say, and also it maintains the edge of the pavement a little bit better and keeps the drivers on the road section more. It's not a raised curb, but it's that valley gutter that we talked about last time. That's just an example, and the next slide is another example. But this was not anticipated or included in the original CIP. We were just real broad numbers at that point, and we were not anticipating that. So that's $1 million in valley gutter right there.
This picture is in Palm Beach.
That picture's
Yeah.
with
It's
the,
better than any road here.
yeah, with the hedge line, it's really close to it and adjacent to the back of curb. So
Yeah, so we picked that picture because it's an example of some of the houses that we have with the vegetation that comes out. Sorry to interrupt.
To summarize, we were in the 2018 again, close to 5 years ago. We had a $6.1 million cost estimate in there with $1 million on inflation.
1.35 million for contingency and markup differential. Another, it's like 0.6 million for the lake expansion and geotech fabric that was added in there. Contractor general conditions with his probably taking a less of a overhead and profit margin on the bid project. The valley gutter was straight across the board add, and that's still to be determined or approved by the town. And then, as I mentioned, we got to fine tune our design for the pavement and the drainage pipe and inlet locations and quantities. So that's kind of where we're at. A lot of unknowns to be determined, kind of thing. So we're, as Mr. Dunham mentioned, our goal with our preliminary cost estimates is not to be the low bid. We want to have you have the information you need to budget properly, and then we're hoping that the contractors obviously come in lower than our estimate. So that's, if you have any question.
So my question to the commission here today, I mean, we did discuss the valley gutters at the last meeting, and there was no feedback from the commission at that meeting. So I was just a little curious as to your thoughts about those valley gutters. They don't increase the width of the road. It's like Pola, and I know Mr. Lyons is listening. I had this conversation with him. At his house, Polo is 20 feet of asphalt. It wouldn't add 2 feet on each side. So you would reduce the asphalt and you'd have the valley gutter on the edge. It does lengthen the life of the asphalt, as she said, because that's where asphalt typically begins to fail, at the edge. And it does, mentally, as you're driving a car, you pull out on a street and you see that valley gutter, you tend to not want to drive on it. You can drive on a valley gutter. So if cars meet or trucks meet, I mean, you can drive on the valley gutter. Just a few tidbits about valley gutters, but it is an extra cost. I think it's probably the best way to get the water off the road and keep it from stagnating at the edge of the road, and it can actually begin to smell, and you know what it's all
parts of the
about.
town are different. So you're
Correct,
talking about where Mr. Lyons lives, or what,
Yeah.
and you're talking this area down here. It's
Yeah.
a much different situation.
Yeah, so
Because the water, but will that valley, because it goes from here to down there. I mean, there's a slope on Polo Drive. I'm using
Correct.
Polo for an example.
yeah.
Will the water just run down the valley gutters to this end?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and then we'll have
two.
intermediate inlets,
Yeah, but
drainage
yeah,
inlets,
Yeah.
and the inlets are in the valley gutter.
Yeah, it won't come
Okay.
all the way down.
Excuse me.
So
So
it won't just, yeah, you just answered my
You know,
question.
well,
Thank
the
you.
scope of work has changed. I mean, I've been talking to, a lot of the residents. They're like, this is sort of like, this is a water main project, a little bit of paving. Now the water main project interior, although a big deal and a lot of construction, is sort of, I wouldn't say secondary, but now the drainage project and paving is sort of taking the forefront. It's all we've been talking about the last 3 months. So yeah, I think we definitely need the valley gutters. I mean, this accomplishes a lot of our long-term goals with drainage in the core. And then also, we probably should just disseminate some correspondence and maybe some pictures as the season starts through the Civic Association, just so everybody knows what it's going to look like.
Absolutely.
Because then, all of a sudden we start digging, doing all this stuff, and then everybody's like, well, what are these things? Why are they there? Why do I
Right.
have a strip of concrete in front? I mean, it's going to look the way it looks, but just
Right.
fine. Why do I have a strip of do I have to pressure clean it because my hedge is hanging over
Yeah.
it? What do I got to do, So that's probably helpful, and we can point back to it when they're finally done in, 3 years or 40 months.
And Mrs. Orthwan and I talked about this a little yesterday, and she did bring up the idea that maybe all the roads don't have to have the valley gutters. Up there where Mr. Lyons lives, I mean, it's dry most of the time because it's 3.5 to 4 feet higher than it is
Mm-hmm.
at Polo and Old School. So, I mean, that's just something that you could look at to see if we do certain sections of the town versus
But I
others.
think consistency on one road,
No,
is
you're
the
right.
key. I mean, because
You're
you
right.
don't want to also not have alley gutters halfway through.
Well, I know, I know.
I mean,
Because there's the optics of it.
yeah, but maybe on Golfview Road, you don't need valley gutters. I mean, but I don't know would that look okay or no?
You still want to send the water down to
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
coastal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's especially recommended on roads that don't have a slope longitudinally, because then we can get it off the crown of the road if we reconstruct it to have a crown. But then when we get it to the side, we have to have it sloping to get it to the inlet. And concrete keeps its shape and its slope better than asphalt. Asphalt settles less uniformly, so like, let's say C Road, maybe we don't need it here because you've got a real good slope on this road. But again, you want it everywhere so it looks uniform. We can certainly look at, street by street, we would.
I'm just trying to get a feel for how your thoughts about the valley gutters. I've had some people tell me that no, we're
They don't like
doing
them.
the valley gutters. Yeah. But I think you're right. I mean, Vice
Anything
Mayor.
that will move more water, because remember, you're assessing conditions right now. You're not assessing what the valley gutters need to do in 10 years. On top of that, so, all this is supposed to be a little bit of perspective. We're doing more than, obviously, we have Breck as the engineer, we're doing more than maybe we need right now because for the future. So,
But I certainly, my goal would certainly be, I mean, if we do all this work and then we still end up with ruts and mud, and our folks are not going to be happy with that. So, I mean,
So valley gutters.
well,
Actually, I thought that picture looked nice.
Yeah, no, they're aesthetically
They're-
pleasing. It's a
well,
clean look, because you can edge it a little better, and
Right.
it keeps the pavement from breaking down on the edges. Like you say, that's the real problem, is the breakdown of the pavement.
yeah. So, okay. So,
I can tell you an answer to your question, do they have to be pressure clean? If you want them to look like that
answer
picture,
is,
oh,
the
sure.
answer is yes.
Yeah.
sure.
Because I've got 'em.
And
Well-
we're requiring, maybe who's going to be pressure cleaning?
Well, I
them?
mean, those are the town.
Unfortunately, something was going on, we got a question.
Yeah,
So that would be an issue.
Yeah. So, but
It
what?
takes a lot of time
Not
to,
necessarily.
No.
We have a hoverboard that can go right over it.
oh, really?
I think some
Oh, okay.
some
we have the
owners will
equipment
probably
to do
do it, and some owners will probably periodically
Right.
do their own, so I'm not that overly concerned about that. I think the main concern is moving as much water as possible now and in the future.
So, I mean, do you have any more questions?
Vice Mayor,
Mr. Lyons?
Yes,
again, it's awkward. I'm sorry if I interrupt. Now, I was tentative about being supportive of the valley gutters. But having seen a presentation by Rebecca with the different options, which is do nothing, and then we still have that water settling and ruts and so forth. So you need to get once you slope the roads or reslope them so the water flows, if it goes off to the grass, it's just not going to really fix the problem. The alternative to these valley gutters was just regular, 2 or 3 inch curbs, which I think we're all against. So I think not if, your suggestion of communicating to the residents is a great idea, but I think it's important, and I think Rebecca Travis has some good illustrations of if you do nothing, if you use curbs or you do use the valley, the people will better understand I think inclination on the commission to proceed with valley gutters. So I think communicating is important. The last thought or question really, I had discussed with
with the town manager, and Joan Orthwine brought it up as well. Do we do it throughout the whole town? That's sort of an open item in my mind. And I guess to me, the answer to that is the extent that there's certain areas that clearly have more water than others. Yes, I think you have to put in the valley gutters. If there's some other roads that don't seem to have any real water issues, maybe not. And only, the engineers can tell us that. By the way, there is a wonderful exhibit of how the water flows within the town. And it's a color-coded presentation that shows where this water collects. And very clearly, are certain areas that require significant abatement in terms of drainage. So, but maybe down by my way, it's less necessary. But I'm not sure what the right answer is, whether we do all or some. But I'd like to hear more later on at another time.
We can certainly, prepare a flyer or something that could go on the town's website, like do a project website. We were anticipating doing something like that if that's what you want. And then that would have, contact information, maps, photos of, we could start populating that now if you want to.
I think that's a good idea. I agree with Tom. I mean, just to educate the community, and also maybe the community civics association can bring it up at their meeting or start educating people what's going to come, so it's not a surprise.
And I'll just to kind of finish off this, the town's done a very good job of marketing this CIP program. And when I'm out in the field out there, I mean, I get a lot of people that say, I thought you were going to do our road this year,
Well, people are very anxious to get the roads done because they're in disrepair.
That's right. And so
it's very important we continue with the project, hopefully in a timely fashion.
Right.
Yeah, we're on schedule. In fact, I think I do that towards the end I passed the end of my presentation. I left a schedule. So we're still on schedule. So we're looking at bidding in early 23.
Okay.
April.
April.
Yeah. Construction, summer of 23.
So it'll be next summer we can start, and it'll take 18 months, a year?
Yeah, I think we were
18
looking
months.
at 18 months.
So we'll go through the season.
Right. So we would have something, the schedule up on what we've done on other projects is we open a project website. So they can click on a link. Yeah, they can click on a link. Well, it can be on the town's website itself, so they don't have to come anywhere else. And then we just post information, and that works really nice too, because then people aren't in town, they're up north, they don't have to, they wonder what's going on, they can just go to the project website. But we'll look at getting an address for that, setting that up.
I think people just want it done.
Yeah.
I mean, in general, do you feel the same way?
Yeah, I do. Okay.
We're on Blue Water Cove now? Or are we finished with the budget?
No, I mean, if you'll indulge me,
Yep,
I know,
sure, go ahead.
I know everybody's looking at the clock.
Yep.
So actually, discussion on the budget, and Rebecca, if you could just wait another 5-10 minutes, we'll get to this contract. And we discussed this at our last meeting. What the staff is recommending is a 5% COLA rate for the staff. Normally we relate this to the CIP. I'm sorry, the CPI. And for this area, she already identified that currently is around 9.6%. Certainly, we're not going to do that. We've looked at other towns and cities, and we're pretty much right in the middle at 5%. In addition to that, as you either read the minutes or saw the YouTube or were at the meeting, the mayor was recommending an across the board or was it a percentage? It was, I think it was an amount. What we're recommending is a 2,400, what we're calling a fuel allowance that could be paid on a monthly basis. This is a one-time, we won't call it a benefit, but an allowance not to be added to the base base salary. So we're recommending that. That's a total of $56,000 for the year. And again, that's not attached to the base salary. I've also got some recommendations for some title changes and responsibility changes. If you'd like to try to mention those today. Again, today the commission is not making any decisions. We won't be doing any approvals or resolutions or anything until the July meeting, but
September.
I'm sorry, September. So if I could just go through a couple of those with you. Okay. Like me, you have all been following the steady ascension of Renee in her career as a town clerk. She committed herself to learn the responsibilities of the town clerk position while on the job as assistant town clerk and deputy clerk. She has supplemented her on-the-job training with coursework by earning certification as a certified municipal clerk. I'm recommending that as duties and responsibilities of positions transform over the years, that Renee Basil be appointed by the commission as the town clerk of the town of Gulfstream. Of course, in her position as town clerk, Renee will always have the support of our new senior town clerk, Rita Taylor, who will always have a place on our staff as she continues working in our clerk's office and also providing historical perspective, knowledge, and advice to our staff and to the residents of Gulfstream. That's one proposal that I'm recommending. I'm also recommending that Anthony Beltran, whose title is Water Maintenance Supervisor, be promoted to Public Works Director. The main reason I'm recommending this change is that he's already performing the duties of a Public Works Director. Not only does Anthony have the knowledge and expertise of public works services, he possesses the confidence to make decisions and responsible recommendations to engineers, including the town's engineers, and to contractors and applicants / residents regarding projects in the town of Gulfstream. And the best example I can give you is the work that he's done on Blue Water Cove, directly speaking with the developer, Mr. Glickstein. And so he realizes that all this infrastructure that's going in now is going to be the town's infrastructure for years. And so he wants what he believes that we need. And he said, we've had many discussions with Mr. Glickstein and our engineers. I think Rebecca would agree with me that he's got the expertise to do the job and make decisions and recommendations that a public works director would make. And so that's a recommendation that I would have for you. And then finally, I'm recommending the promotion of Trey Nazaro to the position of Assistant Town Manager / Legal. When I first started work for Gulfstream, Mr. Nazaro principally handled public records requests, but over the last 5.5 years, Mr. Nazaro has become a valued resource to me in developing strategies and work plans for projects both big and small. In this position, Mr. Nazaro will be able to represent the town from both a legal and an administrative position. And a good example of that I'm talking about is our District 4 league meetings that I go to on a monthly basis when I can go. And so one day I invited Trey to go with us. In the District 4 are certain towns in the league, the Palm Beach County League. So I invited Trey to go, and I was, after the meeting, I was descended upon by, what's his name? yeah, Richard Radcliffe, who's the administrator for the Palm Beach County League of Cities, he said, well, we really don't want attorneys coming to this. And so to get back at him, I'm recommending to appoint him as the town manager, because then he, assistant town manager, because then he can go. But another example is I was not here Thursday and Friday last week. We had major issues with a construction project. I will not name it, but we ended up having to shut it down. And Mr. Nazaro took the bull by the horns, went out there and did that. And so obviously, and again, over the last 5.5 years, he's developed an interest in keep staying in local government law. And so it's not unusual for towns and cities to have assistant city managers that are attorneys. I don't know if they're attorneys, but Highland Beach actually has 2 assistant town managers. Anyway, he's my right-hand man. He's good at the details. I'm good at the big picture. And so it's a perfect match. And I think someday, I think he has visions of going into city management. So those are my 3 recommendations. Sorry.
It's nothing.
So
You heard me.
so those are 3 recommendations that I'm making to you. Again, a 5% COLA with this gas allowance, not related to the base pay for our employees.
My only question is, should be paid once a year, or just by month, or by every 3
I don't think
months or something?
there's any difference. I mean, it could be, we've talked about that. We were talking about doing it
Should be monthly, right?
on a monthly.
Monthly, I think it should be on monthly.
Well, that's what our recommendation
Okay.
is.
I thought you said once a year, sorry.
So the difference in last year's salaries and wages, we're also recommending 2 new positions. One is a police officer. Another would be a accounting clerk. I've also given more duties to Rebecca with respect to building permits. You should see her office at this point in time. And so she's our principal intake person with permits. We're expanding that to level 2 and level 3s, conducting pre-app meetings. And so she's also our human resource director and our CFO. So it's not uncommon for people in our positions to wear many hats in small towns and cities. And so, Rebecca, you might be able to fill the commission in on the responsibilities of a clerk if we were to do that.
So we're looking at restructuring internally some duties across the board. And with Renee transitioning, Renee right now currently does our remote deposits, and she does process our payroll. But if she transitions into a more accountable or responsible role that has additional duties, I'm going to need somebody. Well, the town will need, for internal control reasons, to have another person that can take those duties away from her and kind of maintain some semblance of internal controls that one person doesn't have too much control over the money.
We always get gigged every year.
Every year.
In our audit about internal controls. And that's the only thing that they have comments about. And so this, in a way, will be able to help us address those.
So will this
issues.
person be the level where they could actually be what's the skill set for this person? Is it just administrative, or is it somebody who actually has a background in accounting?
Just accounting.
Yeah, okay. Good.
Yeah. So those are the other changes. So without those 2 positions, with the 5% COLA, and the and then the changes in salaries for those that are getting new titles, that would represent a $47,000 increase over last year's wages.
I just want to add that there are two significant things that we are adding. Part of that is that fuel allowance that we're doing, but there's also, as part of our union negotiations, it is being put forth that we're going to have a shift differential, an official shift differential, where people permanently assigned to the night shift would earn an incentive bonus, like I don't want to call it a bonus, but an incentive pay based on the fact that they're working the night shift on a regular basis, and to help compensate them for the emotional and mental and physical toll that takes on them.
That's around $11,000.
So I just wanted to mention it
Total.
because it is part of our union negotiations.
Total.
Yes. Yeah. So again, I know the clock here. I mean, if you have other questions, I mean, we have more detail on the salaries if you would like to see those. So now, so I think that's really it, unless you have other questions about the budget. Let's see. Again, I mean, the total budget has been reduced from 12 million to 9 million. And if you don't have to make, you're not approving anything today. We needed an extra month to talk about the budget. So
Sure, those recommendations sound like we proposed. We're happy with all the staff recommendations and titles. Everyone's doing well, so we'll keep moving forward.
okay. This is our one.
So where are we on Blue Water Cove next?
Yes. So this is the, if you recall, when we did our project out here, Baxter Woodman provided oversight to the construction process. This is the same contract that we approved for that project. The cost of it is $64,000. It was higher than that. I asked Rebecca to sharpen the pencil a little, and she did do that. And so it's being recommended to you. It's a cost of $64,000. She's here to answer any questions if you were able to look through this contract.
You need an approval part?
Yes.
Does anyone have any questions in the matter of time right now? Is
So
everyone
this is
okay?
between the town of Gulfstream
and Baxter Woodman.
This is not related to any independent review for Blue Water Cove's permitting that's supposed to be paid by.
No. I mean, that's our infrastructure. We want to make sure.
Yeah,
it's
okay, I
put in
agree. It's
correctly.
big, it's a big project. So this is our own final review of
This
what's
isn't a
going in
pass through
This
to
is
going in.
construction
This is us.
management and inspection in
Yep.
the field
for us.
for construction by the developer.
Mhm.
It's
And
comparable
it's
to
a
the,
not to exceed, it's a not to exceed, so we only go out there and bill
Right.
you when we go out there, so.
Sure.
So this is just to make sure that it's all
Oh, yes, done right.
we also had,
done right.
we also had construction management services for the CIP,
For
the
this-
water line
this
with
other-
Baxter Woodman. So even though that was our project and we were doing it, we wanted to make sure that the contractor was doing things properly and we had
That they're paying
oversight.
for all that.
So it's the same thing.
What about the Gulf?
And
No,
we,
no,
this is coming out of our,
We're paying
this
for
is the
this.
town.
No,
We're
they're
town
paying
dollars.
for this.
Yes.
Yeah, no, but I'm not,
Yes,
all
they're
the
paying
other-
for the,
no, no,
yes,
no, no,
ma'am,
no,
that's
no.
correct.
Yeah,
They're
should they
paying,
pay for this too?
Well, we tried, but it didn't work. But
Isn't the Gulfstream Golf Club also having water issues that run across that property too? That's not part of
Yeah,
this at all.
Mr. Smith, but that's a different.
Okay,
never mind.
never mind, that's okay. Okay,
Okay, so we're gonna, so I guess we need a
You need
motion.
a motion to.
We need a
approve
motion
this.
to approve this agreement
So
for Baxter
moved.
Woodman.
For 64,704. Second,
Rita, the roll, please.
Commissioner Roy, one.
yes.
Commissioner Schmidt,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Stanley.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, now
yes,
we're on
go ahead.
to
Police.
police communications agreement.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor. So our police communications agreement is for 5 years. It's under the same terms and conditions with the city of Delray Beach that we currently have. It is for dispatching service, which would include fire and police. And this is a renewal for an additional 5 years at the same cost, same exact CIP, or I'm sorry, where is it? Same. Yeah, CPI, thank you. Same CPI adjustment as is in our current contract, so it does go up with the consumer price index annually. It currently is at $62,000 annually, so it's not a significant cost for the service that we're being provided by the city.
Right, and it's still subject, we still have the same termination provisions that we can terminate with 60 days notice.
That's right, there's a termination. This is something that,
You need a motion.
and we do need a motion to approve.
Okay, I move to approve the police communication agreement.
I'll second.
The roll, please, Rita?
Commissioner Orthwyne?
Yes.
Commissioner Smith?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Stanley?
Yes. Ordinance 2022 or 22-6.
Rita, would you like to read the ordinance, please, by title?
An ordinance of the Town Commission of the Town of Gulfstream, Palm Beach County, Florida, amending the town code of ordinances at Chapter 42, Buildings and Building Regulations, Article 2, Construction Standards, Section 42-26, Adoption of Codes by Reference, and Section 42-27, Issuance of Permits, Inspections, providing for repeal of ordinances in conflict, providing for codification, and providing an effective date and for other purposes. It's presented on first reading this 12th day of August 2022.
I move to approve ordinance number 22-6.
I'll second it.
Call the roll, please.
Commissioner Orthwyne?
Yes.
Commissioner Smith?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Stanley?
Yes, and we have just 3 more items, 9B, C, and D. So 9B, those are the meeting dates for the Architectural Review and Planning Board, since you need to know when those are. Finance Director, you've got in your packet the financial report for July 2022 and the water usage report. I assume there's nothing out of the ordinary as to those for this time of year in the town. And then the police activity with the chief, July 2022.
Request to be accepted as submitted. The one there, I mentioned quick. We had a drowning in town. The police tomorrow. It was in a private residence in the swimming pool. A lady named Catherine West at 1465 North Ocean. She was found floating in the pool by her goddaughter.
Dear.
She was transported to the hospital. I guess, worked on her for a while and declared her deceased. So,
It's too bad.
She had medical issues.
Yeah.
She is the 4th resident of that house that has endured, in her case, passed away, but has endured considerable pain. It's, some people think the house is haunted.
Is this right next to you?
Hmm?
Is this house?
It was built before our house.
Is it just north of your house?
It's just,
Yeah.
The one that they renovated so much?
Whoa.
Whoa.
I have only spent 20 minutes with Mrs. West in my entire lifetime. And unfortunately, a couple of days.
Mr. Vice Mayor, I think you've set another record.
Everybody has to be careful, worry about that all the time, top to bottom, young and our older residents for the pools. Okay, seeing there's no more comment, we're going to adjourn the meeting at 12:50. Thanks, everybody, for your hard work.
Take care. Have a good day.
Thank you. Have a good weekend.
You don't like your meetings. Did you have the short meeting?